we're heading inside 4 eclectic homes where a mix of influences and creative design come together to create truly one-of-a-kind spaces. First, we'll head to West London, where interior designer Nina Litchfield's Victorian home beautifully blends English country house charm and Brazilian architecture, creating a timeless yet functional space. Next, we'll visit Bellport, New York, where jewelry designer Lizzie shares her newly renovated 1920s home, showcasing a balance of vintage pieces, vibrant color stories, and modern comfort. Then, in Brooklyn, interior designer Erin Fearins takes us through her whimsical, eclectic family home, filled with unique finds and clever storage solutions for city living. Finally, we'll step inside a charming 100-year-old Edwardian bungalow in New Jersey, where accessories designer Alana blends eclectic elements with contemporary style. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Nina. This is my home in London and I'd love to show you around. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is Nina Litchfield. I'm an interior designer and this is my home in London. Welcome. When we first bought this house, it was looking very different, and my husband and I decided that we only had a very small budget to give it a sort of tiny facelift in terms of colors and taking away the old wallpapers, taking away old carpets, and we lived in the house for about 4 years until we decided exactly what we wanted to do, got permission in order to do the extension and the exterior work that we needed to do. As you can imagine, London is very protected in order to keep it such a beautiful city as it is, and so there are a lot of guidelines. And after 4 years, including 2 years of planning, we moved out for about 2 years in total. I even had a pregnancy in between, so a lot of excitement in those 2 years. And then we moved back in after extensive work had been done. And essentially everything changed, and the only thing that stayed as it was is the staircase. All right, let's get started, and I would love to introduce you to my living room. This is my formal living room. It's a very important space in the house, and I would say the most important piece of furniture in this room is this sofa, which was designed by me and made by a very famous English company called George Smith, who make the best sofas. And it's a bespoke piece that essentially made the room work, because this room is a connector between my staircase, my library, and going down to the kitchen and the family area. And I wanted to focus on the fireplace, which is a new fireplace, which has a wood burner, which I love. When it starts getting a little bit colder and grayer, let's say, in London, you put that on and it really immediately changes the mood. And I love being able to have a real fire. And it is also like very efficient. It heats up the whole room. It's incredible. I love it. So this is a space where I gather my friends in the evenings. We have drinks here before we go down for dinner. This is a space that in the winter we sit, we read by the fire. As you can tell, this is a leopard print, so it's quite colorful. I'm playing with greens. What I felt was really important is that for me, this room needed to feel relatively neutral. So the walls are white, but the theme of green goes throughout this floor. And I have very important works of art, which are my pops of color. This is a friend of mine. She's called Anna Skladman, and she is incredible. I love her work. It's basically a scan, like she puts flowers on a scanner and it gives this effect of a photograph. And these are exotic flowers that you have in Brazil. So this picture really represents my and my husband's background, and therefore we love it, and it's colorful and warm. And we have family members here. We have chairs that we got as a wedding present, which we love, which bring in a bit of old, traditional. I think antiques are extremely important in any home. And this is a Swedish coffee table with burl on it. I love having coffee table books and magazines and ashtrays. Even if people don't smoke, I actually love ashtrays. So this is a very beautiful Murano ashtray. This is an ashtray by a German company that are friends of ours in Germany. And then if we move on, I also like having little cocktail tables everywhere. This is a little Swedish sofa. And a little bit hidden, but I'd like to show you because I think it's important, is this coffee table that I've made out of books. Essentially, I have too many books and I didn't know what to do with them. And I just thought, let's use them. Let's put a light on them and make them part of the design in an eclectic way and in a practical way. So I love that I was able to create a table out of books. So you see, not always you need to spend a lot of money to get good things. These are old chairs. They are children's chairs. I have an obsession with chairs, so and seating in general, because I feel like, again, this is like a quirky part, a quirky side. It's something I bought when I was a student living in London and I didn't have much space, and they're actually very comfortable, and I like being close to the ground. And people think, oh, I don't want to sit there, but actually they're the best chairs in the house. I love them. As you can tell, I have brought together a lot of different elements in this home, especially in this room. So I would consider this sofa very modern. These are traditional old chairs, but slightly contemporary. And these are completely traditional chairs. And this is a sort of mid-century table. And I think when you first, if I was to suggest this to you in your home, you would say, oh my God, this is not going to work. How am I going to make this work? There's so many different elements, so many different timelines coming together. How do you do this? And I think essentially it's about just trying it out. I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm giving away my secret. And I think it's just about making sure that it feels right to the eye. And essentially you need to hire me in order to make it work. If you want to clash all those things together, I think that is one of the things I'm good at. It's about making different elements work that maybe normally you wouldn't have put together. But it's an instinct, really. Unfortunately, as much as I would like to give you a better answer that would help you recreate it in yourself, in your home, you can, and just go with your gut instinct. Try it out, move things around, and stick to what feels right to you. I like how these two rooms seamlessly flow into one another, and that's the idea of this house, is that I was able to create spaces that you can change and they are interlinked but also work in themselves, being cut off. So I've created this doorway here with sliding doors. I'm going to pull it out for you to see. So this is a walnut sliding door, quite traditional, very traditional in its design. Nonetheless, I feel like it doesn't feel heavy and old. I think it still feels young, but I think those are the things that are important to me within the design. You need to have traditional aspects personally. When we were looking into modernizing, changing the home, making it suit our family life, not just from a sort of visual aspect and making it look beautiful and represent us, we were giving this extraordinary opportunity to also make it practical and make it work in everyday life as a family with 3 children. And it was very important to me that we kept a lot of the original features that we felt made this house what it is. And it is a Victorian terraced house. Terraced houses are the houses that are sort of glued onto the next house. In England, those are the sort of townhouses equivalent, I guess, in America you'd call. And they, for example, this room that I'm sitting in, it's the library, what we call the library. It used to be the dining room. And one of the features that I'm actually looking at are the windows looking onto the street. They are arched windows, and they were something that I always loved about this house. And they have original shutters that we kept and that we felt were really important to keeping, you know, the character of the home. And whilst decorating the house, it was really important to consider the fact that we are in London. We need to consider the weather. We need to consider how this house will feel in the summer, in autumn, in winter, and in spring. And especially because in London you have a lot of gray. I don't know if you're aware of that, but the weather can be slightly depressing, somewhat sad. So I feel like London homes, they need to be uplifting and they need to help you feel good. So moving on from the living room, this is my husband's office, but it's also a library. It's also a cozy space to gather people in. When I'm having a dinner, when I'm having drinks, cocktails, it's a really wonderful space. In the winter, we put on the fire and it feels very warm and cozy. I've also had smaller dinners at this table, which I really love because it's so versatile. I can do work from here, I can do homework with my son, and I can have small cozy dinners with friends as well as just drinks. And I'd love to show you, those are my new chairs that we are producing and selling, and they're going to be online very soon, and we're very happy and proud of them. And then here we have a sofa that's been recently reupholstered. It is also part of the design of things that we will be selling within the Nina Litchfield Studios collection. And I think every house needs to have books. You can't have a home without shelving, without books. If you look at this space, what makes this space are the shelves. I love that we were able to create the shelving all around the doors. I've also designed this ladder in order for you to move it around and you can get to everything. So it doesn't just look pretty and create space for you to keep your books, to keep your memorabilia, to have photos of the family. It also is something you can actually get to, which I find is really important. So you can move it around, the ladder can go over there. And yes, I love that it's the same fireplace as next door, but at the same time it's different. So this one is a gas fireplace made to look like a real fireplace, but it's not. And we also had the interior painted in black so that it looks aged, but it's not an old fireplace. And art, once again, is really important. This is something I bought for myself before I got married, and it's in Warsaw, and he's a magnum photographer, and I love the way that it calls you in. And I think, you know, art brings another dimension to a home and represents people again in a different way. And I love it. It's quite urban, but then you have the trees, and if you look closer at it, you can always discover something new. And funny enough, it feels like it's in the middle of nowhere in Poland, but at the same time, it looks like they all have satellite TV. So very important. And I love things like that. Here in this corner, you have a table from the Lacquer Company together with Rita Koenig, who is a fantastic designer, also works a lot in the US, and I love her work. And they collaborated and made these beautiful tables with the lacquer trays in them. And so that's our bar. And also it's important to have different lighting throughout the house. So when I want to create just a like cozy mood, I only turn on this light, and then you can have a conversation one-on-one and spend a wonderful evening in this room. I've told you before about my living room and how I have green running throughout this floor in my house, which is my formal entertaining floor. And you have green curtains, the green sofa over there. And here we decided to go for this incredible grass cloth that we love. It's a sort of what I call moss green, and it changes with the light falling on it. And I think it's wonderful because it's kind of like toned down. It's not too much in your face. Grass cloth always creates, again, a warmth and a coziness to any room, which I can only recommend. I mean, if I needed to choose one wallpaper that I wanted to use for the rest of my life, it would be grass cloth in any color that I'm allowed to use it. And what I love about this one specifically is that it's not shiny. It's a very matte glass cloth. So I would say watch out when you're buying wallpaper, when you're buying grass cloth, make sure that it's matte. That's my advice to you. The other thing that I would like to point out about this room is this beautiful green that we have used on the bookshelf. We absolutely love it. It's a what I would call traditional racing green, like quite deep, but also a very happy green. So originally, as we designed this room, we wanted this to be walnut, but essentially we couldn't afford it. So like in any project, you have moments where you have to take decisions and cut things out. At the beginning, I was quite upset about it and sad about it. And now in hindsight, I realize actually it's probably better in green than it ever would have been in wood. And I love it because it brightens up the room. It makes it feel young and fresh, although it's a traditional design within the bookshelf design. So what I'm trying to say is don't always look at it in a negative point of view. Sometimes coming up with solutions for things and changes that need to be made throughout the process, it can be better than what you've ever expected and better than the original idea. I have to admit that in general, I find it very hard to pinpoint my style when people ask me, what is it that you like? I personally like homes that feel like a home. We are not talking about a hotel or a museum or an exhibition space. This is a home, so it needs to feel lived in. It needs to feel like characterful. It needs to feel that it represents the family that is in the house. In general, I do like color. That is not to say that you can't have a very subtle, beautiful home with different nuances of beiges and whites and textures. In my home, we decided that we wanted color to represent warmth. We wanted color to represent our different backgrounds. I am half Brazilian, half German. My husband is half Brazilian, half English. So this house is very eclectic in my point of view. I wanted this house to feel modern. To me, I guess to some people it won't. It depends on your definition on what is modern. At the same time, I do feel my designs will always have a very traditional bone to them, a very traditional undercurrent, something that feels like it's not about a trend. It needs to be something that you know you want to live with for a long time and that you are going to enjoy for a long time, because as we know, to do this sort of work, it is costly and also very time consuming. So once you've made decisions like this, you want to live with them for at least the next 5 to 10 years, really. Moving on from the library, I'd love to show you my little secret, as you call in the US, powder room. Here in England, we say loo. It was something I had to learn. As you can tell, this is a door, a secret door, and this is the little powder room, which I love, which has this American wallpaper with pineapples and different layers to it, and a little bit of a glossy layer on top. I have some art that is really important to me in here. I think loos are always a good talking point, so I love a little surprise in the guest loo, which is what I try to achieve in here. Let me bring you downstairs now. I would love to show you my kitchen. So as you have noticed upstairs, dividing the living room and the kitchen area, you have these glass and steel doors, which we call crystal doors. And I love them because I believe they bring in a sort of contemporary, modern aspect to the house, which in my point of view otherwise is relatively traditional. So I love the juxtaposition of a more traditional room with some contemporary architectural features, and so I've continued that throughout the house, and I'm going to show you. I continued the theme with the steel and glass doors throughout. Here I wanted to create a division that felt light and that would let the light in throughout the different aspects, because we're now in the lower ground. And so it's less bright as it would be upstairs, as you can imagine. So here you have a crystal division between the kitchen and the laundry room. And then you have the same thing here going into my children's playroom and TV room. And so they can close this door. They can watch TV whilst we are cooking, and they feel like we are not making too much noise, and their noise is also not affecting us. So it's a great way to divide rooms, create a little bit of a modern vibe, and lets in the light, lets you overlook what your children are doing depending on their age. You want to be able to keep an eye on them, quite literally. So we feel like this works really well here. And the other thing that I did was, because this is the lower ground, it's a relatively big room, I wanted it to feel warm again, because kitchens are spaces that are quite clean, quite hygienic, and can feel relatively cold at times. I wanted this kitchen to be light blue and have this very warm and colorful wallpaper. So I chose this wallpaper because I wanted people to feel like they're going to a special space that is part of the house and it's not an afterthought. So this wallpaper also brings in the garden into this room, because we have the connection to the garden. And I wanted it to be blue because it felt like it was warmer, and I didn't want it to feel like a kitchen. Actually, I wanted it to feel like it could have been any room in the house. And essentially, this is the room that we spend the most time in as a family. This is the room that I have my friends over, that we cook. We eat every meal in here, we hang out, you know, make a cup of coffee, and I wanted it to feel just as special as anywhere else, although you are going to the lower ground, which traditionally wouldn't have been the most important floor in a home. So this wallpaper is actually by an American company called Trustworthy. And it's a famous designer called Voisey who designed this wallpaper, and I love it because there's something childlike about it, and with sort of like out of proportion animals and insects and flowers. And so even on a gray, rainy day in London, this feels warm, cozy, homely. And like I told you earlier, my kitchen is extremely practical. It's a very good kitchen to cook in because I love cooking. So I know what one needs when you're cooking. And so I'm very happy with the outcome. We love our kitchen and we spend a lot of time here. Here I created an area for you to have breakfast or lunch or dinner, but it's a sort of smaller, cozier environment, and I purposefully changed the material. As you can see, this is wood. Once again, I'm using walnut, which is one of my favorite woods because it's dark, it's moody, and very warm. And I love that about walnut. And the rest of the kitchen, it is all done with Carrara marble. So throughout here, the splashback and the countertop, it's all Carrara marble. I made sure that I didn't have open shelving because I wanted to keep out the dust. It's as simple as that. Not every decision is always a design related decision. Like I said before, it's first about practicality and then you make it look beautiful. So we are very happy with the outcome. This is an American company that you've probably seen a lot before, and I love the red knobs on them. I think they're really fun and they add a touch to the house, aside from being very, very useful and great. Here I've also created this scallop trim to add some detail, to make it fun and feminine, and we love it. It's such a simple little touch, but we feel it adds so much character. I have this cuckoo clock that I bought at Muji, which reminds me again of my traditional German side, and I love it. It starts to make a noise every hour and every half an hour, so you're sure to know what time it is when you're in my kitchen, that's for sure. In general, throughout my life, I very much have the mentality that you need to mix different things from different price points, and I don't believe that in order for it to be beautiful, it has to be expensive. So I'd love to show you an IKEA glass that I have, which is with flamingos, and I love it. It's from IKEA and it's wonderful and people love it and they're very useful. And I have this other glassware which a friend of mine produces, and they're not very expensive. They're very well priced, and I think they're beautiful. Swirls, and they come in lots of different colors, so I use them in all sorts of colors, and it's all about mixing them at the table. You don't want them all to be the same, and they are hand blown, as you can tell. They differ a little bit, tiny bit in size, and I love that. I find that very charming. And the name of the company of the glassware is Bias Edition. Another thing that I would love to show you, which is a bit of a secret, is my larder. So this is one of my favorite parts of my kitchen because, as you know, when you cook, you need space to store things. This is my larder, and I also put in some drawers where we keep more of the children wear and some of my teas and things like that. And one of the fun things that we created was to put numbers on them because I wanted to be able to tell my kids, if you need that glass, go grab it in drawer number 3. So that was the idea. So this is my dining room. It's part of my kitchen. There is no division whatsoever. And I wanted it that way because I wanted it to feel informal and very family space. So this table is a vintage table that I have bought, and I had it lacquered by my joiner. It's something that I do a lot. I love reusing vintage furniture and giving it new life. And you can make it look and feel completely different, but you're using something that has already been made, that is out there. You know, we need to think about our planet. So this is a vintage Swedish dining table. And you know what, to be honest, these things that were made 50 years ago or maybe older, they were made much better than most things are being made nowadays. So they will last you a lifetime if you look after them, and they're very cleverly done. As you can tell, I have a cat, and my cat inhabits this space a lot. And when he was younger, nowadays not so much, he really messed up my furniture. So I decided to just let it happen to these chairs. He hasn't done it anywhere else, luckily. Fingers crossed. And, it gives me the opportunity to play with them again. Very soon, they're going to have to be reupholstered. My husband's not going to be happy about it, but I certainly am. My journey into interior design has been, what would I describe it? It's sort of taken a little bit longer for me to get here. I guess some people, they know from the beginning after they study what they want to do in their lives. I didn't really, and I studied international relations at first, and then I worked at Sotheby's at the photography department, and it really helped me understand that I am a very visual person. Later on, I worked in fashion as well for a while, about 3 years, and again, I love expressing myself with my clothes. But I also decided that I didn't want to be part of the fashion industry as such. So I left, and whilst I got married and had my first son, I did up my house and I hired an interior designer because I do very much believe that it is good to have help, it is good to have guideline, and it is good to understand that it is a lot of work to get to the finished product. So essentially, I did up my house, and then I realized I love it. I love doing up houses, and I have a very deep understanding of how a house should be used. I have a very open, very close relationship with my clients, in the sense that I need to understand what they need in their lives, what they want from this house, how much do they want to entertain, how much do they need their privacy, how much would they like to spend time together as a family, and in which basis to sort of have a space to yourself. And so I then did a course at Inchbold. At the age, I think I was 28 at the time, and Inchbold is the oldest school of design in London, and I loved it. And after I finished my course, I actually got pregnant with my daughter, so I decided I wasn't willing to sort of go and start as an intern somewhere, and I needed to just do it by myself. I needed to bite the bullet and start my own business in order to be the boss of my own time. And I think a lot of women get into interior design because it gives you the flexibility that we need as homemakers, wives, women navigating a very busy life. And so I first had a business partner, and we traded under a different name, and then she moved back to Brazil. But I feel like you gain a lot of experience on the job, and that's the best way to learn, because everyone has their own taste, everyone has their way of putting things together, and really doing a course is not going to change that. It's more about learning about the basics, but then it's about learning on the go. And so it's been over 10 years that I have been doing this work now. It changed in many different ways in terms of working with different people, working under different names. And now since 2020, so it's been 4 years, I've been trading under Nina Litchfield Studios. And I have very big dreams for this company, for it to grow into many different aspects of the visual things that I love. And I'm very excited that things are going in the right direction after a lot of hard work. This is my kids' playroom. It comes off directly from my kitchen and dining area. It's the space that They love being with their friends. It's the only space that has a TV in the home. I'm quite strict about it. So this is where we watch TV, cozy up in the evening as a family. The sofa is big enough to fit all of us. And yes, it has all the toys. The kids can be here when they have a play date, when they bring their friends over. Again, it's a very informal space that is fun, that is like, I do not worry about anything in here. If it needs to be reupholstered in 10 years' time, so it will. But up until then, it's all about just being messy, having fun, and enjoying yourselves. And I love this space because it feels very homely, it's very cozy, and I continued the theme of blue. So as you can tell, the kitchen is a lighter blue, this is a darker blue. They're both from the same company, which is called Edwardian. They do natural paints, and I love the colors that they give us. And so I decided to embrace the darkness down here, and because it's the TV room, I wanted it to be a little bit darker, a little bit cozier. I have more to show you upstairs. Follow me. This is my office in the landing. So one of the things that these English houses have is these little quirky corners and landings. And this used to be a kind of like an unused space, and I always felt like it has so much potential, and these houses, we need to make use of every inch that we can. So I put in the crystal door again. I have, I think, the best room in the house. I love it. It's small, it's cozy, has an incredible view into the garden, amazing light, and I love working from here in the evenings and having phone calls, whatever it is that I need to do. I really believe it is very important to merge practicality, comfort, and beauty within the design. I also believe that is really important that my clients are represented in their home, so that I don't want people to walk in and feel like, oh, Nina helped you, I can tell. But apparently I do have a style, which I didn't think I did, which is recognizable. But essentially, it's about creating joy, and it's about having happy clients at the end of it all, that are comfortable in their home, that want to entertain, that are proud of what they've created with me, and that it makes sense, that it's really functional, and it gives them all the spaces that they need in their home. So this is the master bedroom, or nowadays, as we're supposed to say, principal bedroom. I love it. It feels very serene to me. It has a lot of things that have emotional value to us. Above the bed, we have the paintings of our children, and I love this English painter. She's called Emma Woolard, and she painted them at different stages. I feel like they are always here, they're present, and it captured such an innocent and beautiful time in their lives. So that was wonderful to have that done. Our bed is an old French bed that we bought many, many years ago when we first got married, so 16 years ago now. And again, it's something that I love. It brings a lot of character, and I love cane. So that's another obsession of mine. So I'm very happy with this bed. Also, throughout this floor, the theme is kind of navy blue. So this is a color by Farron Ball called Hague Blue. It's a color that I use a lot because it's quite dark, it's quite deep. It changes with depending on how the light falls on it. This is an old Chester drawer that we bought when we first got married. It moved around, and we have a lot of memorabilia and art and photography of the family and of my husband's family, of my family, and yeah, we really enjoy being in this room. These lamps I bought a very long time ago. Again, when we first got married, I think with my friends who are interior designers who helped me do my house. And I love them because they have this flower detail in them here. And I put new lampshades on them. Previously, when we bought them, they had paper lampshades and they were black. So it was quite moody, quite lovely. But then I wanted actually to put fabric on them. And I love a bit of Eclectic, and so I bought these in a London shop and changed it, and I love them. I think they're really beautiful. Another thing that I told you earlier is that I love secret doors. In England, the technical term for them is jib door. So we have another jib door here. I created my closet behind that jib door. I'm not going to show you everything, but you get a sneak peek. So normally I don't do this, but I will make an exception and show you a very intimate space in my home that I created because I have a lot of clothes and shoes. My father-in-law calls me Imelda Marco. So welcome to my closet, but don't tell anyone. This is a space that didn't exist. It was all one big room. I created this division in order to be able to store my guilty pleasure, which is clothing, shoes, and bags. And once again, we had to take advantage of the full height of the room, and I created another staircase so that you can actually access everything and change winter and summer clothing when needed. And yes, I love my little secret room. One of the new shoes that I bought this season is a Ulla Johnson shoe, and I haven't worn them yet, and I can't wait to wear them throughout this whole fall season with a little kitten heel. I think they are perfect, and they're going to work with tights, without tights, with jeans, with skirts, anything you want to do, and I think I'm going to live in these. Okay. We have to get out of my closet because my husband does not know that I have all these things. So let's go into my daughter's room, make sure this door is shut, and let's go. So here's the top floor. It's where my children live. And this is my favorite room in the house. It's my daughter's bedroom. She is the only girl, so she had the privilege to have the brightest and possibly slightly bigger room than her older brother. So I love it. I made it very pink. She now wants to change it all because it's been 6 years that she's had it like that. And she said to me, "Mommy, I don't want my room to be pink anymore. Please, can we redo it?" So at some point I will have to grant her wish, but for now it's still pink. So once again, practicality was really important. So I made sure that we had plenty of storage, took advantage of the ceiling height within the house. I opened up the ceilings. I also put in a ventilator, which possibly in London you'd think, why would you do that? But I have to be honest with you, this being the top floor and underneath the roof, it does get very hot here in the summer. And at that point, we weren't able to install AC. So we put in the ventilators, which I think are extremely charming. And to be honest, they do the job for London. Another thing that I love about this room is this rug that I brought in my luggage from my visit to India. As we were finishing the house, I went to visit India, and I fell in love with that country and the things they produce and the amazing craftsmanship. So I brought a few things, and this rug is one of them. And till today, I absolutely love it. I also managed to find a vintage desk that people were sort of throwing out, and I thought, this is wonderful. She definitely needs it. So we need to make sure that in order to bring in a little bit of character into a home, I think bringing in some vintage, some old pieces are really the way to go, because they always add character, they always add a bit of fun and color and something unexpected to a room. I also created this board, with this cork board, for her to be able to pinpoint photos of achievements or drawings. My daughter is actually very good at drawing, and so we always encouraged her to put it up for her to look at, for her to be proud of the things that she's made. And I've made the border out of the same fabric that the curtains are made out of. So to continue the theme and to create a continuity in the room, I think it's great to reuse fabrics in different ways and for different objects in the room. Another thing that I want to mention to you is, again, this game in a home of high and low, which is really important. So doorknobs, for example, can be quite expensive and they can be quite hard to find, and sometimes you want something that is a little bit different. So these ones are from Zara Home. I love Zara Home. They have great things, and one of them is these very affordable, very cute little star doorknobs. And continuing, I could say, continuing on the theme of the fabric, I had these vintage chairs reupholstered for her. Previously they were in my office and they were a completely different color, and I reused the fabric that we used on the curtains, that we used on the board. I used them on those chairs as well, and I think it works really well to have them in different places within the room. The word home to me is, I think, a really important one. I think it's possibly one of the reasons I love doing my work, is to help people create their dream home. The word home is, it's a space that you walk in, that embraces you, that makes you feel held, and that makes you feel like you've got home, you know, like it's comfort, family, all the things that maybe you enjoyed about your childhood that you want to recreate for your family or for yourself as a grown-up. The word home is major. It's really important, which is why I value my work so much, and hopefully help people to create the home that they always wished for themselves. Homeworthy, it's been so much fun to have you here today. I loved showing you my house. It was wonderful, but I must get back to work now and you have to leave. Bye.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Lizzie. Welcome to my home in Bellport, Long Island. I'd love to show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Be sure to visit our website, homeworthy.com, to discover amazing furniture, art, accessories, and more, all handpicked by our editors to help transform your house into a home. All of the items are inspired by the episodes you see here on Homeworthy. Enjoy!
Hi there, welcome to my home. I am Lizzie Fortunato, a New York City-based accessories designer. I am currently in my Bellport, Long Island home, which I purchased with my husband in 2018, and we did a big, fun gut renovation on. We're about 55 miles from the apartment that we rent in Brooklyn, New York, and we come out here almost every weekend. So when we were looking for homes, we visited a lot. There wasn't a ton of inventory. And we fell in love with this home, which belonged to the Higginbotham family. And they're a very interesting family because the patriarch of the family was part of the Brookhaven Institute, which is a really famous science lab out here. And he actually was one of the founders of like the first video game ever. I think it was Pong. So he had like a really interesting history. I think the house only changed hands once or twice since its since it was built in 1924. We didn't know the exact year the house was built, but when we started doing the gut renovation, we pulled back some drywall and discovered the numbers 1924 etched in the wall. So to our best guess, that's when it's from. As I said, there weren't many owners of this house. It was really like loved by the families that occupied it. And we put so much TLC into the renovation. It had a pretty traditional layout previously with lots of small chopped up rooms. We really opened it up. We wanted it to feel like just a big open space where we could hang out with friends, cook, watch TV all at the same time, and be this like communal hangout area, which I think we achieved. So our Bellport house is, I would say, kind of like a beach cottage style. It is technically 1.5 stories. So the upstairs has pretty low ceilings. My husband is 6'4". He always jokes that he can't stand up straight up there. It's kind of got bungalow vibes with cedar shingles on the outside and has a really amazing wraparound porch. So people in town have always noted that this house should be called the porch house. And that's kind of what we lovingly refer to it as, the porch house, because people gather on the porch. It is like this whole extra room outside, which really adds a layer of fun, especially in the summertime when people can gather out there. Welcome to the entrance of our home. As you can see, it's a pretty big, wide open space, but this little front area is where we kind of gather for cocktails or games or hanging out, and it houses one of my favorite pieces in the home. This Calder tapestry was passed down to me from my maternal grandparents, and I'm absolutely in love with it. I received it long before I ever purchased this home, and it was rolled up in my Brooklyn apartment, but I knew it was going to be kind of like a showcase piece in the home, and I would build out color stories around it. I feel such like affinity to it, and it's really dictated a lot of my design choices, including this upholstery. This is awesome Lisa Corti fabric on a pair of chairs that I found on Etsy after scouring high and low for a cool beachy armchair, and I feel like the blues really talk to each other. And as you can tell, I've kind of leaned into primary colors in this room. The little end table is a vintage store find, and I just went to Home Depot, got some blue paint, and painted the top of it. So mixing these red and blue hues in this space has like brought some real dynamism to a space that otherwise is like pretty white floors, cream sofa, but again, pops of red and blue kind of define the entryway. The bench that's under the tapestry was found at one of my favorite antique stores that's about 25 miles from the house on the North Fork of Long Island. It is a really cool antique store called Beal and Bell. I've found so many good things there, including this ship bench. And it's an antique bench. The legs actually fold up so it can be transported pretty easily, but it's not going anywhere. I love it. Sometimes I'll switch out the little things on top. This awesome blue bowl was actually produced by one of the photographers who shot one of our jewelry lookbook campaigns, and she's a ceramicist in addition to being a photographer, a woman of many talents. And I thought, oh my gosh, it speaks to the blue in the Calder so perfectly. A little 1950s lamp that I found on eBay, coffee table books. Again, I merch this differently according to my mood, but I feel like it's a perfect home for lots of my little trinkets and things. And I'll put in like dried flowers or grasses. A lot of these are just like picked outside from the yard to give some height to this area. The brass sconce that's on this wall is actually handmade from a artisan in Portugal, and I love how like the brass speaks to some of the brass finishes elsewhere in the house, and it gives just a warm glow in the evening time. When we did our gut renovation, we were really committed to the open floor plan. We took down all the walls. We wanted this like open flow so everyone could hang out together. Someone could be sitting over here, someone could be in the kitchen. We could all talk to each other and hang out. So we're flowing right into the living space. We have this kind of like cool pass through. One of my favorite woodworkers, Hedge House Furniture, made this piece for me. They also sourced the wood for the top of my dining table. They're a US-based woodworking firm and do really cool things. And again, this just like houses some of my favorite things. So like finds from the beach, cookbooks, vintage pottery. And I'll switch these little moments out, but I love having these pieces that bring me joy that I get to see kind of on display. And miraculously, my 3-year-old daughter is really good about not touching them. So a pair of vintage lamps from the 1950s, seashells that we've collected from the beach, blown glass candle holders from a good girlfriend of mine. Again, pieces that kind of spark joy and make it feel like home. Moving into kind of our TV, hangout, everything area, a big L-shaped sofa, again with pillows that are vintage covers. A lot of these were found on Etsy. I love textiles. Textiles inform a lot of the work I do for my accessories brand, my jewelry line. So I am always searching for interesting textiles, and I love kind of like mixing the prints on the sofa here. TV in the corner where we do a lot of movie watching. And then one of my all-time favorite pieces in the house is this crazy chair that was made by a female woodworker in LA. Her name is Sam Klemek, and she used a vintage kantha that I brought back from India to upholster the chair. So it's got these bulbous legs. I love that it's made by a female woodworker. I love that she's domestic, and I love that it is personalized to me, where it has this upholstery that no one else is ever gonna have. Okay, so when it comes to defining the little vignettes in our open floor plan, I would say that one of the things that helped me out is using rugs or floor coverings to kind of demarcate the space. I have this one big rectangular natural striped rug in the living area, and I kind of let that define the living area space. So things kind of hang off of it and extend a little beyond that border, but that border helps me kind of like control the living space. Similarly, in our front entrance, everything is kind of centered around this rug, and I've created these kind of like rectangular blocks to define the different spaces within this very open floor plan. And that has been helpful to me because it can get kind of crazy where it feels like one space is overflowing into the other, and it's nice to have boundaries when you're creating little vignettes within an open floor plan. On the coffee table, a big basket that just kind of houses some candles, coasters, remote controls, and then a few of my coffee table books, including Trish Foley, a designer who's local to the area and who I've followed her work for a while. Her recent book called Entertaining by the Sea, it's given me a lot of inspiration in terms of setting the table and creating a nice kind of beachy dinner party moment. Some other items of note in here, a local ceramicist, again on Long Island, made this piece, which I love, vintage lucite candle holders, artwork by a Charleston-based artist, Catherine Dunlap, who I adore, and then artwork by my 3-year-old, who I also adore. Our fireplace works. It makes the house a little bit smelly, however, we adore it, and there's nothing better than gathering around on a winter evening, cooking a great dinner and making a fire. It is, again, a house from 1924, so we've had to give the fireplace a little bit of TLC. We had to repatch parts of it, but we're so glad that it's in working condition because it makes it so cozy in the winter months. So when we visited this house and kind of were mulling over whether to purchase it or not, I had the best vibes, the best feeling about it. And it's funny because I always joke that when I feel like a good feeling in my stomach or like my bones, like I know I'm ready to move forward with something. And I told Peter, my husband, I was like, I have a good feeling in my stomach about this house. And he was like, oh, I guess we're just going by the feeling in your stomach. That's a little suspect, but needless to say, I just had a really good energy and like really good vibes feeling about this house. And despite the fact that it wasn't totally my style when we first visited it, again, like the rooms were very small, it was pretty choppy, the decor was pretty traditional, it was, you know, a 180 from what it looks like now. I just felt like this feels like home. There's a big backyard with trees around it. It felt like intimate. There's a gravel driveway. It felt like a bit campy, and all of those sentiments were things that I was looking for as kind of like escape from Brooklyn and city life, where we both have pretty like chaotic jobs and lives, and this felt like the respite that we needed. So when it comes to the refinishing that we did on the inside of the house, I was really intent about using vintage, secondhand, if the pieces were new, finding things as much as possible from makers and artisans. I am a designer, and I feel really passionate about supporting other designers and makers and independent businesses. So I was like very intentional about trying not to buy from like big retailers. And you know, here and there I did that, but in general I was searching for vintage pieces, scouring Etsy and Craigslist and auction sites. I went to tons of yard sales out on Long Island, and I also am someone who loves the hunt, so I wasn't desperate to furnish everything in one fell swoop. I was really, again, intentional about like hunting and like really falling in love with a piece. I also would say that while I love like, you know, rustic beachy hues and tans and whites, I also am not scared of color, as you can probably tell. So I was really intent on having like pops of color and then building out kind of stories and moments around those pops of color. I didn't want everything to be like too white and precious. Great thing about an open floor plan is that we can be in the kitchen cooking and we'll have friends over who are sitting on the sofa and we can all converse, and it's just like so easy and casual. Moving into our kitchen space, this is kind of the piece de resistance, the piece I searched for forever. I was really debating whether to do a built-in island in this house or a found piece, and I really wanted to do the found piece, but it was very hard to find something counter height, and I knew I wanted it to be old. So this piece is an 19th century draper's table from France. I fortunately found it at an antique store in Chicago, so I wasn't shipping it across the Atlantic, just across the country, and I just love it. It has so much personality. Fabric has been cut on this, cheese has been cut on this. It has been through many lives. We use it as a kitchen island, but in its past life, it was for tailors who were cutting on it. And I just think it's so special. The turned legs have a lot of personality, and I find it to be so charming and one of my favorite pieces in the home. On this vintage breadboard that I got from a really cool antique store in the city, I'm always kind of merchandising different little stories on top. In the summer months, there's usually fruits and veggies from our local farm stand or the CSA, and it's like overflowing with bounty. Right now I have some vintage linen napkins that I picked up from one of my favorite little craft sales out here, dried hydrangea that came from about 10 feet outside in our backyard, some good candles, veggies and whatnot, little fish dishes that I found on the side of the road during a trip to Portugal. So this kind of just gets merged with some of my favorite little trinkets and then food items. Okay, so upper cabinets were a big conversation when we were doing our renovation. I really didn't want any. All the practical people around me were saying like, you should certainly have some, but we have these beautiful windows that existed here, this natural light. I didn't want to interfere with that, and there's just not a huge amount of wall space in the kitchen area, and I really didn't want to start jumbling it up with upper cabinets. So what we landed on was 2 exposed shelves. My uncle actually sourced the wood for me in Delaware. We have like these beautiful bronze brackets that it sits on, and they house a lot of the dishes that we use every single day and that I really wanted to be visible. The Moroccan dishes here, I actually brought back from a trip to Fez, Morocco. My poor husband had to put him in his carry-on, and I told him not to make any sudden movements because I didn't want anything arriving broken. Really cool Hassami mugs that were passed to me from my grandparents, and some vintage finds. And then in terms of our other items that we have to store, we did a lot of lower storage. So we have drawers for plates and things, a corner cabinet, and I will say I'm pretty minimal in the kitchen. I try not to buy too much in terms of plates and servingware because we don't have a ton of space. So I'm pretty disciplined about just buying what we need and then having a lot of it live out. So spices and spoons and our whole coffee station, we're a big coffee family, are just out on the counter and cute enough that they can live out. So admittedly, I am not the chef in the house. My husband is the chef, and he is a grill master. So rain or shine, 365 days a year, he's outside grilling. I am responsible for making the table look very cute, and I'm very good at that. And I love to set the table, and I do dishes, and I do all the prep, but he is in charge of the grill, and that's where we are usually making our food, right out back here at the grill. And I actually do a little bit of baking with my daughter, so we tend to make a mess over here. This stool is actually embarrassing and something I probably should have hid before I had you guys all over, but this is a stool that I painted when I was in 5th or 6th grade, and for some reason it has traveled with me to every apartment, every home, and it's landed here, and our daughter Ruby loves to sit on it when she sits up at the island. So it has made its way following me along after all of these years, despite not being that notable. What do I love most about our porch house? There is so much to love about this home. I would say the thing I love most about it is it's a really small house, but it lives big. So we've opened up the space, we've fit a bunch of tiny bedrooms upstairs. We can cram a lot of people in this house, and despite the fact that it's not that many square feet, we have amazing dinner parties here. We have lots of people over to the porch. We have friends sleep over. We have dogs running around. We have kids climbing over things. And I would say the fact that we can like have a lot of fun and like live big in a pretty small space is what I love most about it, especially as someone who's lived in New York City for the past 20 years where like spaces are small and it's sometimes hard to entertain at home. This is like the perfect tonic for that, where you get to like invite all your friends out and have a really good time and feel like you can just like cram a bunch of people in and have a lot of fun. This is our fun dining table. So the walnut wood top is sourced by Hedge House Furniture. The legs are iron. They're made from iron by an artisan in Rhode Island. Again, I really love like searching for independent makers who are doing really cool things in small batches. I love when pieces have a story behind them. The chairs are vintage, again, from Beal & Bell, this really great antique store on the North Fork of Long Island. And I actually discovered them on their Instagram feed, purchased them sight unseen. Everyone was like, how are you gonna buy a dining chair that you've never sat in? Fortunately, they're super duper comfortable with rush seats, which makes them kind of beachy and perfectly suited to this space. I'll often change out this centerpiece depending on the season and the mood. Love doing different assorted heights and colorful candles. And again, in the summertime, this is often overflowing with like fresh flowers from the farm stand and seashells, and it just kind of like accumulates a centerpiece that reflects the season. So the rug I actually designed and made. I do some like textile and craft work in India where we produce some of our jewelry. I have an artisan vendor there who has produced some different rugs for me. Occasionally I'll sell them on our website. And this is one of the ones I made, and I think it just suits the space perfectly. It has this blue stripe that speaks to some of the other blue tones in the home, and it's a flat weave rug, so it's really easy to vacuum. If it gets dirty, sometimes I'll flip it over and use the other side, which is also beautiful, and it's really durable. So it gets paw prints and kid prints and whatnot, and it works perfectly in the space. So this chandelier is one of my favorite pieces in the home. I knew I wanted this kind of French tulle chandelier, which there's nothing too French about the house. It's kind of inconsistent with the rest of the decor, but I think that's part of my vibe, is just pulling together these eclectic inspirations and letting them live together and not forcing a single trend or a single design direction that prohibits me from going in a bunch of different directions. And this is a really good example of that. The French tulle is a little bit more country and elaborate than I usually am in my design, but I was just so drawn to this aesthetic, and I found this one on Etsy. The seller, again, it was during COVID, and the seller was so kind and messaged me and said, I'm so excited for you to have this piece, but the post offices in this local French town that she was shipping from were shut down. So it took me forever to receive this piece. As a matter of fact, the rest of the house was done and the electrician had to come back about 3 months subsequent to finishing all the rest of the electricity in the house and install this when we finally did receive it, but it was so worth the wait. I love how charming it is, and it casts a really nice glow over our dinner parties, and it just has a lot of character and personality. Okay, so moving over to this cool white cabinet. This was actually part of the house. When we moved in, this was kind of like this landing at the bottom of the stairs. The whole layout of the home was very different prior to our gut renovation, but this was indeed here. And I was like, that's a beautiful cabinet. Let's not rip that out. Let's leave it, give it a coat of fresh paint. I sourced these awesome brass handles from Liz's Antique Hardware in LA. And this is our kind of makeshift bar. So we love making a cocktail on a Friday night. And this is where my cool Italian glasses live. A picture from Oaxaca, Mexico, some cool cocktail books and little family mementos. And then down here, kind of stuffed to the gills, are a lot more cocktail glasses and little accoutrement that I'll use for setting the table, and then a liquor cabinet. So this is where we pour a cocktail on a Friday evening, turn some music on, dim the lights, and it's really fun. One other favorite piece is this little sconce with a handmade pleated lampshade, which I love. So in the summer months, we are always outside. We have like a nice big outdoor table, and these French doors are oftentimes just open. And then we're in and out through the mudroom all the time. This is where like the beach stuff lives. So follow me this way. Great light coming in through here. And then these Home Depot cabinets that I just painted a really fun color are so durable and store a lot of like our beach things and our laundry things. And even though it's just a mudroom, we end up spending a lot of time in here packing beach bags, dumping sand out of towels, and all of that good stuff. So we have this counter space with a washer and dryer hidden behind two vintage textiles that I stitched up and actually used a Pottery Barn curtain rod to hang them from, because I couldn't figure out the best way to hide the washer dryer. I didn't want big doors on here because this space is pretty narrow. I didn't want to be opening them up into your legs. So this works perfectly. Our daughter loves to hide behind here. It's a really nice form of hide and go seek. And then a few more little fish from Portugal along with our tide clock, so we always know when's the best time to head to the beach. Here is a little powder room. This is where we house all those good family mementos. So I've been covering the walls in Polaroids and pictures and sketches and postcards that mean things to us. And this is like a little family history if you are going to the bathroom, which makes it a really fun powder room. Over here, a bench that my mom gave to me. She found it at a really cool shop in Pennsylvania. And then a peg rail that houses the beach bags, the sun hats. Oftentimes we'll have seashells living up here and tennis rackets and whatnot. So this tends to accumulate all the fun summer stuff. So I had so much fun with lighting in this house. I was really adamant about trying to find cool vintage lights. There are some in the kitchen over the island that are like milk glass pendants that I love. They're from the 1920s. The lamps, the flush mount lights in here are vintage ship lights. So they're brass. And they, I think, came up from a place called Shipwreck Salvage or something like that. You can't make up this name. It was literally old ship lights and then an industrial gooseneck lamp that I found from a shop in Chicago. So finding these kind of cool vintage lights that just give some character to an ordinary mudroom was really fun for me. This giant wooden bowl is actually an antique dough bowl. It was used for making dough for breads and whatnot. I'm not sure when it dates to, but it houses our beach towels. So it is getting a very good second life. I found it at the Brimfield Antique Market, which I frequent often to scour cool old things. Okay, let me show you the primary bedroom. It's on the first floor. Gonna head this way. I co-founded Lizzie Fortunato, the accessories brand, with my twin sister back in 2008. It's our 15th year. I oversee all the creative aspects of the business. So design, creative direction. She, on the other hand, directs operations and sales. So we have very different sides of the brain, which is so lucky. We really stay out of each other's lanes and complement each other nicely, which makes for the perfect sister business partner relationship. And she actually got her start in finance. She was working on Wall Street, and I had kind of gotten a real job in New York after graduating college and thinking I maybe wanted to do something creative, but ended up getting a job in fashion PR and was making jewelry on the side, and had friends who were kind of like the bottom of the totem pole at different magazines, and they would say to me, you know, my editor is working on a story, and like one of the beaded necklaces that you make might fit into the story well. And I was like, oh, that's not my real job. Like, I have a 9 to 5 working in PR. It was more like a 9 to 9, but needless to say, I would kind of do the jewelry thing nights and weekends, and slowly but surely pieces started getting press and getting attention, and I would run over to the Hearst Messenger Center at 7 in the morning before I got to my day job and say, oh, I'm the messenger dropping off for Lizzie Fortunato. And suddenly pieces were gaining the attention of editors in New York City, and I didn't have a business because I had a full-time job, and my sister was the one who encouraged me, like, quit your PR job. You don't like that anyhow. Go pursue the jewelry thing full time. I'll help you out. She was like the original round of funding, and it wasn't very much for our business. But since then, we've been organic growth, self-funded. It's been slow and steady. And then she quit her finance job about 5 years later to join me full time. And since then, it's been history. So we now have a team of about 17 people. We have a showroom and studio in Soho. Please come visit. And we sell to some amazing retailers around the world. So, welcome to the primary bedroom, which is on the first floor off of the living space. To start, these antique doors were a bit of a conundrum. We had this cutout space, and our contractor was getting ready to build doors, and I was like, I really want to find vintage doors with cool old glass panes. And he was like, well, we have specific measurements. I got on the internet and scoured salvage sites and ended up finding the perfect sized doors. They were located in Maryland. I happened to be going to Washington, D.C. for Thanksgiving, took a detour to Maryland, picked up these doors, which fit down to the inch in our station wagon, and schlepped them back up to Long Island. So these were a labor of love to find. I sewed the panels so we would have some privacy out of a vintage fabric that I found on Etsy, and it's kind of the perfect situation to give us some privacy and then just have a little bit of character for the entrance to the primary bedroom. It's a really lovely, tranquil space. I would say this is one of the spaces where I used a little bit more restraint, which isn't saying much because I love color and I love pattern, but I wanted to have a space that was just pretty calm and relaxing. The paint has this kind of pinkish hue to it, so when the sun is setting, we'll get a beautiful cast of light in here, and it's Benjamin Moore kitten whiskers gives off this kind of calm pink vibe. The pillow covers are a place where I allowed myself to go a little more bright and fun, and they're Lisa Corti, who is one of my favorite fabric designers. She's based in Milan but does a lot of production in India as well, so I love this kind of block print vibe going on here. The artwork is by a friend of mine, Sally King, and I love the twin faces. She actually based it off me and my sister, which I absolutely love. She's known for her face portraits. The reading lights on the side of the bed, these actually came from an apartment in Brooklyn that I was living in. I had these cool black gooseneck lamps, but didn't think that the black worked in this space, so took a trip over to the hardware store, picked up some twine, and just wrapped them using twine and a lot of patience, and covered them in this kind of twine raffia look, and it lends itself perfectly to the beach vibe that we have going on here. So our bedside tables are from another antique store that I follow on Instagram. They again are just a really simple vintage table. This light wood works perfectly in the space since I wanted that kind of like calm color palette. They'll get piled up with books and whatnot, but they are just kind of the perfect subtle space to house whatever we need. We created these closets just using beadboard, and again, we try and be pretty minimal out here, not keep too much stuff out here. It's a lot of beach clothes, cozy sweaters for the winter time. And because I needed a little bit more storage beyond the closet, I also sourced this vintage dresser from a local antique store. It has a lot of charm to it. It's got these kind of like bulbous feet and knobs. It's a little rickety, but it serves the purpose, and I love the look. It sits underneath an antique mirror that belonged to my mom's mother, so again, something that was passed down, and I just love the vibe of. The vase on the table is by B. Zippy, an LA-based female ceramicist. I love her work and own a few of her pieces, and again, this peach hue just lends itself to the color palette of the bedroom. When I am getting dressed up out at the beach, which is not too often, I'm always layering on some of my own pieces. Oftentimes in the summer, I'll wear just like a bathing suit and jewelry and a sarong, and that's my uniform. And most of the pieces live here on this fun John Darien seashell plate. Right now I have some of my favorites, including the Vinca flower necklace. This is hand-blown glass. We work with an incredible artisan in upstate New York who crafts these blown glass pieces for us. Our brand is also known for working with a lot of freshwater pearls. So one of my favorite pearl pieces, this cord pendant. But this is where I'll kind of keep the pieces that I'm loving. I tend to just bring a few select favorites out here and wear them and style them in different ways because, again, it's kind of like this beachy vibe, and I don't want to be burdened with too much stuff. So I'll pick some favorites, they'll live out here, and then I'll go back to the city and re-up. Okay, so in terms of my go-to pieces, I actually have one of them here. I'm not wearing it, but this is the necklace I pretty much wear every day. It's part of our 14 karat line. So the toggle is solid 14 karat gold. It's aquamarine stones dotted with little emeralds. It has like that perfect amount of sparkle, but it's also dainty enough that I'll layer it with other strands. And this is the piece that I pretty much never take off. Because it's solid gold, it does well in the beach environment. It doesn't tarnish or anything, and it really just layers itself into a neck mess really beautifully. So this is probably my go-to. I'm also a big earring gal. Our organic hoops are one of our best-selling products, and I wear those a lot. And then this mixed metal hoop that I'm wearing right now is fun because you can do it with gold or silver, and it's pretty easy. Okay, so this is the primary bathroom. This was a really fun space to decorate. This cabinet was actually also here, just like the bar cabinet was here. This was in kind of the original entryway of the home, and the contractor just kind of cut it out and moved it into the bathroom. This made it so that we didn't have to buy a vanity, which was awesome. I sourced the countertop and some cool handles, and this acts as our vanity. On top, concrete sinks that I found from a maker in the Midwest, and then these vintage brass faucets sourced from Morocco. We have medicine cabinets for storage, and then one of my favorite little accents are the blue and white tiles, which I also hand carried back from Morocco. I only have whatever it is, 30 of them or so, and I gave my contractor full artistic license. I said, I want a little backsplash behind our sinks. You do the pattern as you want to. And he sent me a cell phone picture. It was during COVID, so I was kind of quarantined from him, and I was like, I love how you laid them out. Go for it, and here they are. Over here, a little comb print from one of my favorite artists, Hugo Guinness, a vintage rug on the floor, and then a Zalige tile in the shower. So this is, again, a really like cozy space, but with some great personality. Again, the brass tub filler is vintage, and then I have this cool woven light over top. So I'm a big bath gal. I love taking baths in here in the winter, and it's, again, just a really warm, fun space. I love talking about what gives a home a soul because I think, I talk to so many of my friends about this too, who are interested in interiors and have done some like really cool home renovation projects, but I think it's all about integrating your personal style and not getting too caught up in the trends. I know that there's just like sensory overload when it comes to Pinterest and Instagram and like finding inspiration. I think that's all wonderful, but I also think it's easy to get caught up in these trends. Like I'll see someone doing something beautiful that's super minimal and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I want to go that direction. But then I kind of have to remind myself, like, I'm not that minimal, so I can't like throw everything out and like paint the wall taupe and be happy with it, even though I might get inspired by someone else who is doing that. So I think it's really easy to like kind of fall down that rabbit hole of other inspirations, and like having the kind of discipline to like follow your heart and do what speaks to you, I think is really important in terms of giving a house a soul, and then creating a space that's just warm and welcoming. I love collecting special pieces, but I never do anything that's like too precious. Like I don't want a space where people can't have a glass of red wine or like can't hold a cup of coffee on the sofa. Everything should be just lived in and feel like it's been around for a while and it will continue to be around for a while, and that means being able to live with it and live in it and spill and be okay with it. coming up the stairs, the first bedroom is my daughter Ruby's room, and it's a really charming little space with the eaves, this vintage wicker lamp that I found, and her little twin beds. So these beds were, I think from a Florida vendor on Etsy or eBay, I can't remember. I was pregnant when I purchased these, and they were like a dark wood, kind of serious. We stripped the paint and whitewashed them with like a really nice non-toxic paint. And then we have her little yellow and white bedspread. Her cousin, who's 7 days younger than she is, oftentimes sleeps over. And this little cover I brought back from one of my sourcing trips to India. So it's block printed Indian textile. We have lots of little handmade projects in here, including a watercolored heart mobile that we made together using sticks from the backyard. Also beautiful crewel embroidered curtains that were passed down from a friend. So lots of charm and personality in here. Tons of stuffed animals, tons of books. A lot of love in this room. So fortunately, Ruby is not quite yet of the age when she has a lot of opinions when it comes to home design. She does, on the other hand, have a lot of opinions when it comes to getting dressed. We're in a big dress phase, so even when it's winter time like it is right now, she wants to wear a summer dress, which we've been layering with leggings and tights, but she has not to date had any pushback on the bedding or the pillows. This little pillow I actually sewed from a Lisa Corti fabric sample. When I was getting fabric samples for the chairs that are downstairs, I ordered a bunch of different colorways, including these two. They sent 2 big swatches, and I just sewed them with some like really fun colorful raffia and made 2 little pillows. So Ruby has not had any pushback on this yet. I dread the day when she does. Okay, so coming out of my daughter's bedroom, we have this fun little landing upstairs. This is all original to the house. We didn't really rework too much of this. There's this like cool cutout that goes through to the stairwell. This little moment, this is actually a chair that I found at a yard sale just a few blocks away, and I rehabbed it with some new fabric, and I have a great upholsterer who gave it some life, so I'll often sit here and read stories with Ruby just outside of her room. We have this little chest that I actually painted when I was a kid, so it's probably 30 years old, filled with story time books. A cool little indigo rug on the floor here, and then this awesome photograph that my brother took, I think with a drone. So he's an amazing adventurer and photographer, and that's one of his pieces here. So I would say my personal sense of style, I'm drawn to things that have stories behind them. Like if I find a ceramic piece where I get to meet the ceramicist who made it, and he tells me how long it took and how he came up with the glaze color, I feel so connected to those pieces, and then will like find other pieces in my home to complement that one piece. And I often joke that like I'll get the inspiration for a room by finding like one tiny little dish and then building out the sofa and the side tables and the lamps around that. I really find that sometimes I'll discover a little piece that kind of sparks joy, and if I have some emotional connection to that piece, be it has a story behind it or I got to meet the designer who made it, then I can kind of go from there. I'm not someone who necessarily has like a huge vision for how lots of things fit together, but I like layering and building a story as I go, and I really, again, try and seek pieces that resonate with me, where I feel like an emotional, personal connection. I also want to find pieces that I'm going to live with for a long time. I'm definitely not someone who like replaces pieces often or is you know, intending on throwing something out in a few years. I really try and find stuff that I'm going to live with. So I would say like history is important as well. I've inherited a lot of cool pieces from my maternal grandparents who had this most incredible mid-century house in rural Pennsylvania. And with their pieces, they're so special to me because of the history and the family connection, but also because they had stories about when they purchased them. So having this kind of like story thread through the pieces that I own is definitely meaningful to me. So as I mentioned, this house is fondly called the porch house. And in the summer months, we are always on the porch. It's a great place to hang. It's a lot of extra real estate for a house with a pretty small footprint. And even in the winter time, we're out there. We have lots of bird feeders. There's good energy. So let me show it to you. So this is the side entrance of the house. One of my favorite little details is this old bell that was here when we moved in. I joke that it's the dinner bell, even though I'm not the chef in the house. And then over here we have a really fun wraparound part of the porch with a great seating area. Again, in the summer times, this is a huge hangout area. You catch the sunset off the corner of this porch, and it's like the perfect cocktail hour place. We have overhead lighting that was here, and then just fun pillows and textiles often adorning this space. Lots of ferns and plants, and a great place for hanging out in the summer. So the wraparound porch has always been a feature of the home. We did have to do a lot of replacements in terms of the wood, and some of the railings were rotted. So we have put a lot of time and energy into restoring the porch and making it completely usable. Again, because the footprint of the house is small, we love having this kind of extra room outside. So we built these benches. We have been sourcing furniture, and we oftentimes will pull up like extra chairs or furniture from the indoors so that we can make this kind of a comprehensive room outside when we're having friends over. It's a great place to gather. I also am really fond of just like layering pillows out here, because I'll bring a book outside and like turn this into a little sofa in the summertime and make it just a really cozy place to hang. What does home mean to me? Home means a place where we can gather with friends and with family and with neighbors. We have such like a wonderful group of people on this street who have been so welcoming to us, and have people over and just hang and enjoy each other's company. I would say home is a place where nothing is too precious, where we have comfort and we're surrounded by pieces that give us joy and make us feel safe and cozy, and also is a place where we can open our doors to friends and family and just have a good time.
Today on Homeworthy, we're spending the day in Brooklyn, New York, touring the home of interior designer Erin Fearins. Erin, an avid collector, and her husband, an architect, have spent the last 15 years crafting a family home that's whimsical and eclectic, while also tackling the unique challenges of city living by creating beautiful storage solutions. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Erin. Welcome to my Brooklyn home. Come on in. Hi, I'm Erin Fearins, and welcome to my home. We're in Cobble Hill, and I live here with my husband Jesse and our two children Willa and Avery, and our dog Dolly. And I want to show you around. I just wanted to start in our entry here. One of the things we really wanted to do with this entry is to create a space that feels like its own area, because with this apartment there are a lot of spaces that sort of bleed into one another. So we decided to wallpaper just this zone and treat it a little bit differently than the rest of the living room and kitchen that it kind of opens up into. We just wanted it to feel like a special arrival point, because so many apartments don't have a real foyer or a real arrival moment, and I think that's such an important thing to have as you are entering a home, to really feel like you are meant to go into this area in this zone. One of the things that's really important for us is storage, so we've managed to hide a huge closet here behind this big wall door that houses all of our coats and scooters and shoes and stuff like that. And you would never know it was here. So it's one of the things that's really important in this apartment with 4 people. Even though it's a 3-bedroom, it's sort of a small apartment since we're in New York. So we've really managed to try to hide as much storage as possible throughout. And I'll show you some of those areas. I love objects and accessories. I'm kind of a maximalist. And so even though this is a functional area, I still have to have little things everywhere. So I collect brass animals, so I have a little brass deer here and then one hidden in the floor. We try to kind of have fun with our accessories. I have these cool vintage hat racks that we got that are shaped like brass ducks. I love this piece. This is a Mario Lopez Torres piece. This cool designer, and they make these, they're mostly objects that look like animals. So I love this snake hat rack as well. We're definitely animal lovers. I love this paper. I just think it's so whimsical and sort of 60s. There's something that's just kind of funky about it. I love the overscale quality of it. And you'll see there's a theme of animals throughout this whole apartment. Now I'm going to take you to our living room. So as you can see, it's just this sort of open space right off of the foyer, and our kitchen is adjacent to this space as well. We've got a lot of stuff in here. We're collectors at heart. We love to travel and we love to pick things up everywhere we go. So all of this art and all of the objects have a story to us that is really special. So those are things that just make us happy every day when we're living here in this space. A couple of the pieces that we have in here are vintage and fun finds that we have kind of come across along the way. So this sofa is the only sofa that would actually fit up the stairs to this apartment, because even though it's really long, it's like 11 feet long, it's in 2 pieces. And this is a piece that I found on eBay, believe it or not, and we had the seat cushions reupholstered because they were pretty tattered. It's definitely from the 70s and has the original 70s print on the back and the frame. But this thing has been really well loved, and my kids fall asleep on this on a regular basis. This is another piece that I got at auction. It's this cool chinois kind of frame. Definitely a little rough around the edges, but I like the wear on it. I like that it's not perfect. And we reupholstered the top in a cool Joseph Frank print. It also, for many years, housed lots of Legos inside of this, because there's like a cavity inside that holds whatever you want. We definitely don't prescribe to a certain style. We really just kind of gravitate toward things that we like. Like, we are mixing mid-century with things that are definitely of an older era and things that are brand new. So I think, to me, it's just, if it speaks to us in a certain way, then we feel like that's okay to have in our home. And I like that it feels like an expression of us rather than an expression of a particular style. So another trick that we often use in our work is layering, and this is a good example because this is a room that is hard to define since it sort of blends into our kitchen. So we decided to do a really large neutral area rug that starts to define the space as a whole, and then I've layered a smaller decorative Turkish rug on top that I found at an antique store in my hometown, actually, and the colors worked out beautifully. But I think that it starts to define this as a separate zone rather than this dining area. So there are tricks that are being played to start to create spaces within spaces. So I love the idea of gallery walls anywhere I can fit them. And this is a wall that's evolved a lot since we've lived here. And I've found that I was just collecting all of these sort of smaller pieces that didn't quite have real homes. So I thought it would be nice to kind of put them all together. A lot of these things are really special to us. They're things that we've picked up on travels or pieces that our friends have painted for us. They're all really meaningful. And I just literally one Saturday laid all this stuff out on the floor and kind of took a picture of how I thought it would work and then just started hammering it into the walls, and it worked out. So I don't think that gallery walls are as scary as they might seem to be. I think, to me, it's just, if you love the pieces, they're all going to go together because they're all a reflection of who you are. So I also love butterflies, and my friends know this. So I've collected these species for a number of years, and then this one was given to me by my dear friend. So these are all things that are really meaningful to me. We also picked up this pair of little frogs in Paris a couple of years ago, and I just saw them in the window and had to have them. So this piece is something I got at auction many years ago, and it wasn't really something that stylistically I had pieces that felt like this, but there's something that just spoke to me about this. I love this creature. I love the tree. I think it's so beautiful. It's like vaguely chinois, but it's also a little, I don't know, it has a different kind of flair. And then these are pieces that we just collected. I literally found this on the street and I thought it was the coolest thing, so I picked it up. But the rest of these pieces are, like, this is a dear friend of mine who lives in Toronto, who does beautiful, beautiful drawings and paintings. And then a couple of other things. This is a piece that always hung in my mom and dad's room, and I used to fly kites with my dad a lot, so and they live on a farm in Tennessee, and they also rebuilt windmills. So there's something like so specific about this piece that it's like super special to me. We built this in at the same time that we did our kitchen, and this wall was before it was just this big brick blank wall. And again, just like having storage is so important. So we have these really deep cabinets that house records and serving pieces. And then on this side, it's a hidden bar. So we have glassware and liquor, and underneath here is our radiator. So this cane does a dual purpose where it's decorative, but it also actually allows the heat to come out. Another thing that I love is that behind this television, we've carved out more storage for china and serving pieces that we don't use all the time, but that I want to have access to, and you kind of would never know it's there. So I grew up in East Tennessee in a really small town called Greenville, and my dad was a furniture maker, and his shop was literally through the back behind our house through a field. So I would spend after school and summers sweeping sawdust and helping him build things, or mostly just gluing things together. But just being able to go with him and see houses and see things that he was installing for people at that time, I was so interested in how other people live and so interested to see how people set their homes up. So I think it was just from that exposure that I became really fascinated, and it's just been kind of a lifelong interest for me. I went to school at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville in the interior design department. It was through the architecture department, so I got to know a lot of architects very well during that time. That's how I met my husband, actually, who's an architect. And after graduation, I worked in Nashville for a number of years at Bradford's. And then we moved to New York thinking we'd be here for maybe 3 years, and it's been almost 20 years now that we've been here. I think we just always felt like we would probably move back south, but we really just love it here, and we're able to travel and make this our home base, and I think that because of that, it's been such a great place to kind of grow and raise a family, and we're all really happy here. This is a really small little dining area that we've carved out of the corner of our living room, and we really do have dinner here every night. It's a super comfortable place for four to sit. We really tried to create a space with its own identity. We've done a completely different wallpaper here, and I have this collection of lusterware and stoneware that I've collected over the years that are on the walls, along with some art that I really love. This is a super functional space for us. This table is actually kind of perfect here because it's a big dining table in the middle of the room in a way, but the fact that it's glass with lucite base, this is this kind of 70s base that we found, it doesn't feel like this massive thing. So I think that it really does its job well here to not feel like a big clunky piece in the corner. I love lower level lighting, so we have a lot of table lamps and floor lamps throughout this apartment. In a lot of cases there aren't even ceiling lights, but I prefer that because in most of our work we really rely on lower level lighting just because it feels really sparkly and comfortable, and it's sort of flattering to be around. So this is an area where we installed 2 sconces, and I got these beautiful Fermois shades to put on them. And these are some antlers that my father-in-law gave me for Christmas because he knows I like things like that. So I thought they were kind of cool propped there. These are these cool ex voto pieces that we got in Rome, and they're these little silver things, and the history of these is that they're so cool. Like that one's lungs. I just think they're so cool, and I want to start a collection of these things because I think they're so beautiful. We moved into this apartment in 2016 and rented it for about 4 years, and then bought it and have started to kind of do things to it every summer when our kids are off with their grandparents in Maryland. So it's been sort of this constant renovation stage that we've been in, but I think it's pretty much done. Definitely collectors at heart. Me more so than my husband. I grew up in East Tennessee and am the daughter of 2 very avid collectors. My husband's an architect, and this place is definitely a collaboration. The objects and the style is maybe a little bit more me, but the sort of brilliance of the built-ins and the millwork is definitely him. It's been a great collaboration to kind of come up with spaces together. So this is our kitchen that we renovated a couple of years ago, and we really needed to kind of make sure we're maximizing storage everywhere we could. So we did take the cabinets all the way to the ceiling, and we've really just tried to carve out as much possible storage as we can anywhere. This zone is kind of meant to be a little bit more of a bar setup because it's the kind of connector piece between this dining room area. So we'll often set this up like a bar, but this is drawers. We're housing more china. I have china everywhere. I'm obsessed with it. And drawers are such a good way to house big bulky things too. Like in this one I have, you know, like an air fryer and a mixer and a Vitamix. So it's so much easier to get things out of big drawers than doors. So we'll often use them in our renovations. So on this side we have drawers again for plates and cookware and pots and pans. We really tried to hide as much as we can. So while the refrigerator is the only thing that's exposed, everything else is behind cabinet doors, just to kind of create more uniformity. This is the dishwasher. So it's hidden behind a panel door. And I think it's like sight lines are really important. So being able to see from the living room into this space, we just wanted this to be sort of as done and beautiful as possible. I chose a really dark color for the cabinetry just because I wanted it to feel less kitchen-like. I wanted it to feel a little bit more like a bar. Because it's quite small, but we cook a lot in here. It's really functional. I think having things so close sort of makes it work better sometimes. We decided to use a stone counter, and we used it on the backsplash as well, just again for that sense of uniformity, creating a space that feels a little bit bigger. We really are treating this space like almost like a bar. We wanted it to feel more bar-like than kitchen-like, since it's this interior sort of darker space. And we really just like the idea of making it feel like a jewel box. And we're hanging art and this beautiful Portuguese tiled plaque. And I like to kind of have things propped up and placed in here so that it's functional, but it could also be really beautiful at all times. This rug is one that was found at auction, and my friend actually bought it, and it didn't work in her hall, and was like, I would love to buy that rug from you because I have the perfect spot for it. I love these things. So these are some candles that we sell at our shop, and they're Italian, and so this is meant to look like a big panettone, but it's a candle. And then also this is a candle, this donut, and this tiny macaron is a candle. These are real food though. And then my son made this, which I think is so cute because he called it, this is his little art tag, it's called Strawberry Banana Explosion. I was working at a larger studio in Brooklyn for many years, and in 2020, two of my closest friends and colleagues there, we decided that it was time to kind of branch out, and we created another firm where we're really focusing on architecture and interiors at the same time. It's of equal importance. And our firm is called Studio SFW, and we focus primarily on residential design, and we really try to bring functional, beautiful, fun spaces to all of our projects. We really listen to our clients, and I think in the same way that this apartment is an expression of me, we try to make all of our clients' homes an expression of who they are. Digging deep to figure out those things that make them tick and those things that make them feel happy are one of our biggest goals. And when we get it right, it's amazing because they say that their lives are changed, and it's an incredible experience to kind of help someone through that. So before we go into our bedroom, I just want to point out another hidden storage element here. This is our pantry, because our kitchen's so small, we really need space that's overflow for that. But it's nice that it's completely hidden in this little wall door here. This is probably the quietest space of our apartment. It's this long hallway going back bedroom, but we still love rugs. This is a fun Moroccan rug that I found at a local shop in Brooklyn. And this is a de Gournay wallpaper panel that I've had this since I was in Nashville. I've just had this forever. and I love their paper. Maybe one day this whole hallway will be de Gournay, but for now it's just this panel. So this is a cool pendant. It's newly made, but it's meant to be based on something from like the 30s. It's just a fun sunburst shape. It's a nice element in this hallway. Creates a little bit more of a room feeling, and otherwise just a passage. I'll take you into our bedroom now. So again, this is a little bit of a tight space. There are a couple of tricks that we have incorporated here with the mirror to try to bounce light around and make it feel a little bit brighter. So this is this cool vintage bed that I found in Florida, and I love it. And it has this fun mirrored ceiling that does this amazing thing about bouncing the light from the window. It makes this feel 2 times as tall in here, and I love the effect of it. The other thing I wanted to point out is a lot of storage that we have built into this bedroom. So this whole thing was added, and it really just takes the place of any kind of storage furniture that we would need. It's basically a huge dresser for us, big open shelves, and then things up above that, you know, suitcases, things like that you don't really need to get to very often can go up there. But we've really just tried to carve out as much storage as we can in this small space. So this is another trick with mirror. We installed these kind of antiqued mirror tiles behind this frame TV because I really like the depth that it creates. It's another one of those areas that starts to bounce light around in a way. And in a room like this, it's dark, intentionally dark. We painted it this beautiful Banca green from Farrow and Ball. I love this color, but it's meant to feel really cozy in here, but in cozy spaces, you also want to have a little bit of sparkle. So I think that this mirror on the wall behind this niche does a great trick in allowing for that. This is one of my favorite pieces. This is a quilt that my great aunt Gladys made. She's been a lifelong avid quilter and just passed away a couple of years ago. So we have a huge collection of her pieces. And this one's just really special to me. I love the colors. I love this Lone Star pattern. She was really talented. So in the evenings, this is a really cozy space. We're lucky enough to have this window that streams in light during the day, but in the evenings it's really quiet, cozy, only lit by these table lamps. And another thing we really love to do is add art lighting. So there's always a little bit of a sparkle on some of the pieces of art. So I started this project. I became really inspired by the Grand Central ceiling because I walk through there every day. So I thought I would paint our horoscope signs. So this is my husband's and mine is over here. And then I'm still in the process of doing this. So I have one little star for one of our children, and I'm going to add another star from our other child, and then I'll probably do like some sort of little doggy star sign or something. There's a little constellation that looks like a dog that I may do in one other corner. So this is sort of an ongoing project. I like the idea of just having things that are kind of unexpected in certain spaces. These nightstands are these hand-painted pieces from India. I love them. I think having things that are hand-painted and hand-hewn are really lovely to have around. And I love the color and the pattern on these. So these are 2 pieces that my dad painted in the 60s. He used to teach, in addition to being a furniture maker, he taught shop to high school students when he was really young. And I really don't know why these would have been part of that, but they were painted during that time. But I think they're so 60s and so cool. And I love things I love Americana stuff. So like these 2 just totally speak to me. We often do pieces like this, built-in millwork for a lot of our projects. It's so much more, you can get so much more out of a space when you're building something in rather than just buying a piece of furniture. It can be very deliberate. Like, these drawers are exactly the size of a laptop. So I can keep a laptop in here along with some other things that I'm just like grabbing and taking with me every day. So you can be thoughtful about things like that when you're building something in. So we'll head into this bathroom that's off of our bedroom. And this is one of my favorite spaces, actually. We just finished this recently, and we really wanted this to feel like a brighter, fresher space. It's super functional. We have our laundry area here, but on this side we have a lot of storage and like a built-in hamper, great drawer storage for whatever you need to hide in here. And I love this countertop. This is this great French company that does beautiful lava stone. And this stuff is so durable. In fact, I was so worried about it that I got a sample and I was literally like hitting it with a hammer and it wasn't breaking. So this stuff is so durable. I love it. We decided to paint everything a really soft white in here just because I wanted it to feel fresher and brighter. We've incorporated a lot of pattern with the floor tile, this mosaic and multicolored from Artistic Tile, and then this fun wallpaper. Another thing we wanted to do is really incorporate natural stones. So we've created this ledge here and have mimicked it over here for a counter. This is another great storage solution, again super custom, because we were only able to get about 4 inches of depth here, but in this area we could go back further, so we just took this medicine cabinet as deep as it could go. This actually is a European toilet. It's from Devon and Devon, an Italian company. I love the look of this. I love this kind of, that it's into the wall. This is also such a space saver because these are, if you're able to build them in like this, you do have to pack out the wall a little bit for the actuator to be built into that, but this sticks out so much less than a regular toilet would. So in a small space like this, it's actually perfect. Now I'm going to take you to my son Avery's room. Now we're in my son Avery's room, who is 11 and is obsessed with Legos. So we have this cabinet which is full of Legos. We really just try to keep this room kind of simple. This was the original brick wall that was running throughout this whole apartment. This is the only place that you can see the original brick wall, which we thought was kind of cool to keep in this case. This room we decided to paint everything, the walls, the baseboard, the casings, the same color. I think it creates a little bit of a richer feeling in spaces that are smaller. We do have one wall of wallpaper here, and this is from Flavor Paper. This is the Brooklyn Toile, which is so iconic, but I think it's sort of fun in his space. And again, red and blue color combination that I love. This is a great room that it represents that. So there are some nostalgic pieces in this room that are really special, maybe more to me than my son, but also to him. This is a piece that I was given when I was really young. It was by the artist who drew all the Clifford books, and my mother met him and then he drew this, and it's very special to me. And then this cool poster, it's like a vinyl poster that would hang in a gas station. This is one that's a smaller version that my father has. He, again, an avid collector, has this full gas station full of memorabilia, and this is one that my son liked, so we found a smaller version, and so it's sort of a good memory of his grandfather. Avery's a real artist, so we have this sort of revolving wall of artwork that we change out often. So these are small canvases that he has painted, and we'll change these out every once in a while. He's got drawings and sculptures propped up everywhere. Another thing he loves is Titanic. So these are 4 Titanic replicas that he has made out of Legos. That's another deep love of his. These are storage boxes for thousands of Legos. Very necessary. This is a great lamp that I got at auction years ago. It's a vintage James Mont lamp. We used to have this in our living room, but it seemed like it was working really well in here, and he needed some more light, so we've brought this big boy into this room. I love that piece though. Another bit of Americana, I love that pattern too. I think it's an old Brunswick and Fee. I don't think they make that one anymore, but I love that it has the presidents, like the first 5 presidents on horses. I think it's so cool. So now we're in our bathroom, and we didn't do a ton to this space. We left the black and white floor tile just because we kind of liked it, and this really simple wall tile with this trim. I like the traditional detailing of this with a trim detail running around the shower. One thing we did do is add this Christian Lacroix wallpaper. It's just metallic with all these cards. I think it's so fun. We wrapped it onto the ceiling just because we wanted it to feel really enveloping in this space. It's tough sometimes with interior bathrooms. Every bathroom with a window is so great. So when you don't have that luxury, I think kind of treating it, again, in a jewel box kind of fashion helps. It makes it feel a little bit more kind of comfortable and comforting to be within. So this bathroom is really small and we all use it, and we were constantly getting our towels mixed up. So I've now employed a initial system where you hang your towel where your initial is, and it's working out really well. We're not mixing up our towels anymore. In spaces like this, I love these kind of swing arm multiple towel hooks, because we don't really have the space for big towel bars everywhere. So I think this is really working well for us, this solution. So this is one of my favorite spaces. It's my daughter Willa's room, and I love this nook bed that we made for her. It's a full-size bed, and it's in a pretty small space, so I think it feels really generous even though it's a small room. She's got places for all of her books and her artwork and her costumes, and tons of storage underneath with these big deep drawers. She keeps it pretty tidy in here, I must say. This side, she has a ton of musical instruments. She's a musician, and then she creates a lot of costumes, so this is something she's been working on. Overall, it's a really beautiful sort of light-filled space. She gets a lot of great light in here. This is another Benjamin Moore color. It's a very, very soft lavender. These Moroccan rugs are so forgiving. They're so thick, and because they're wool, they're really easy to keep clean. So even though this one's a light one, it starts to make this whole space feel really light and bright, but it's also really durable because stains come right out of it since it's wool. This is a cool vintage poster that I found at Philip Williams down on Chambers Street, and it's like a section of a house, but it's in French, and I think it's it's the kind of piece that I need to have in my home. I love this thing. This piece of art is something that Willa made several years ago, and I love the colors, and she still loves it, so we have this hanging over her headboard. This is another place where sconces and built-in lighting have become really important. So we have these cool swing arm sconces that she can raise or lower. We have art lighting above the bed on this side, which starts to highlight her sculptures and her costumes that she likes to work on. This is a mobile that I made for Willa when she was a baby. These are some grapevine branches that my godmother gave me. And then another dear friend helped me sew these little birds, and then we pieced it together for her. So this has been in her room since she was a baby. My dad built this table. This side table has kind of been with us for a couple of years. It used to be in our living room, but my daughter took it over since she has her records, and she does a lot of artwork on this as well. So there's paint on it at the moment, but my dad built this for us a couple years back. So this home means a lot to me. It's a place that our family can come together. We're all being pulled into a lot of different directions, so it's our constant, it's our place that we can gather, and it's our refuge. The kids are growing up and we're all traveling a lot and have pretty busy lives, so this has just been a place where we really do actually relax here, and we really kind of come together, and we'll play chess together. We actually do things together as a family when we're here, which I really appreciate, because those times are becoming fewer and further between since my kids are getting a little older. We've put a lot of ourselves into this apartment. It's definitely not a place that is going to be for everybody, but it's definitely a reflection of who we are and the things that we love to surround ourselves with, and we really love it here. Thanks, Homeworthy, for visiting my home today. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Alana. Welcome to my home in New Jersey. I can't wait to show you around. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name's Alana Oates, and we are at my home in Haddon Heights, New Jersey. This house was built in 1912, and my husband and I have been here almost 10 years. We bought the house together before we were married. I had already fallen in love with the Zillow listing before we even saw the house. It definitely needed our touch, but we saw the potential even just from the Zillow photos. So we had already really fallen in love with it. We hadn't been considering this exact neighborhood, but we had been looking in the surrounding neighborhoods, and once we saw this, we just knew it was it. It's an Edwardian bungalow. We have a big, beautiful front porch, and the living room that we're sitting in right now is definitely the focal point with a big original fireplace. So this is our living room. We don't have a formal entryway. You just walk right into our front door, into our living room. And we really wanted this space to feel very cozy. One of our favorite things about the house is the fireplace. So we just wanted everyone to be able to kind of gather in front of the fireplace on the big sofa and on these two cozy chairs. On the mantle, we have displayed these little pieces of wallpaper. We actually found these behind our radiators, and this was the wallpaper that was originally in this room. We just found this recently, and we are planning to replicate this wallpaper and carry it throughout the room. Just because we love the idea of kind of staying true to the original homeowner's intent of this house. We have a beautiful piece of artwork from my good friend Samantha McCurdy. This is one of her pieces. We have some books. This is actually one of my sketches from college in life drawing class. We have many curiosities on these bookshelves. We have a little book of Picasso. We have a beautiful photo of our wedding day here also. We have some books that I've been collecting over the years, some things my husband has found. Also, he's a big fisherman, so he's always on the beach. So we have this driftwood here. These little ashtrays you'll see throughout the home. These are actually frequently gifted to me by friends because they're little like Moroccan shoes, and I think they were once used for like one single cigarette ashtray, which I feel like is very glamorous even though we don't smoke. So these chairs actually came from my grandparents. They have a condo on the beach, and these were part of the house when they bought it, and then they ended up being gifted to us after they got passed around a little bit. And I absolutely love them. We just put these shearling furs on them to make them like a little bit cozier. But as you'll see throughout the house, we have a lot of like chinoiserie, Asian art vibes. So I feel like these were a perfect fit. So this panel, actually my mother found in a vintage store, and it ended up being the perfect kind of key piece for this room. We really wanted something larger in format to take up all of this space, and we love the colors. I love gold and brass accents, and the green was like such a beautiful pop. We had always kind of been drawn to green, so this piece actually informed the sofa we would get, and we did go with a green leather sofa, which we absolutely love just because it's a little bit different but feels very true to our style. So these quilts, again, are, you'll see throughout the house, these are all made in Jaipur, and they're traditional block printed quilts. And I just absolutely love them because they're so cozy. And we actually have some blocks too that I can show you, but if you don't know much about block prints, each color has its own hand-carved wooden block. So these are truly a labor of love and just something I love to decorate with. This pitchfork is something my mother found. I believe it's hand-carved and Amish, and I've never had to use it, but I imagine one day it would be a good way to like shuffle an unwanted guest out of the house. So this area is my daughter's play area. Her little Vespa is something she just got for Christmas, and it has not touched wheels outside yet. She really just uses it to go around the house, and it has a music feature and everything. So this is something she loves. She has some cool little things here, things that I found in India for her. And this awesome, I believe these are called water puppets. This is from a good friend of mine that found it in a vintage store. These are the wooden blocks I had mentioned before. This is actually what they use to make the traditional block prints. So each color that you see in a block print has one of these hand-carved blocks. This is her designated spot. We keep all of her craft things kind of in one area because she loves to explore that. But really down here, we're kind of trying to, now that she's a little bit older, she's 5, we're trying to get her to have most of her playthings in her room and then just a few curated, really special pieces down here. These chairs I actually found on Facebook Marketplace, but I think they're just so sweet. They're all hand painted. My daughter's been adding some of her own painting to them, but they're really sweet. They're just her size, and I fell in love with those. This rocking horse I actually bought in a vintage store before my daughter was born, and she uses this all the time. She actually likes to stand on it while she's, playing, and it's so funny. I have all this compilation of video of her standing up on here and doing tricks off of it since she was like 3 years old. So the hardwood floors in here are original to the house. They are like faded in some spots over time, and initially when we bought the house we thought we would refinish them, but I actually love the warmth that it brings into every room. So we haven't touched them yet, and I just think they're warm and vibrant and really beautiful. So when we first bought the house, it definitely needed some help getting back to its original roots. The owners before us had painted over wallpaper, they had put a lot of modern light fixtures in, they had even tiled over carpet. So little by little over the last 10 years, we've really been kind of stripping the house down and getting back to its original roots and its original tone. So we've really tried to stay true to the architecture of the house. So as soon as we walked into the house, the kitchen was the first thing that we wanted to get to, but it actually took us until 2021 to tackle the kitchen project. But the really interesting thing about this house is every project that we've started, we've uncovered a little bit of the original intent. And the most interesting thing that I'll show you when we look through more of the rooms, but we've had an idea in our mind about what we wanted to do and the design that we had planned. And then once we uncover a little bit, we find that some part of our design that we had in mind is actually part of the original plan of the house. Something I love about the home is that my home office is right behind these doors into the living room. So come with me and I will show you. I love that I'm able to sit here at my desk and still view the living room. So if my daughter's out there playing or my husband's in the living room relaxing, I can still feel like I'm part of the fun, but I'm on my laptop doing work. This is one room in the house where I can really let my creativity be wild, and I can make a total mess in here and then close the doors and it doesn't bother anybody. So typically this room is just an explosion of creativity. I have everything I'm working on my shelves, as well as things that inspire me. These are some of the shoes that I've designed and some fan art that we have here that I absolutely love. This here is actually from our factory when they silk screen our logo in our shoes. Just how you see it here, and they gave this screen to me, and it's one of my most prized possessions. I absolutely love it. The artwork at the top came out of my grandmother's home, and it was always something I really loved in her house, and it just, I feel like, really pulls everything together here in the office. And then I just have some really fun things, some accolades I'm proud of, and some things that just give me a lot of inspiration. This rug is absolutely amazing. I love the blue in it, and I also love the pink. This is actually my favorite color, is like a dusty rose, and that is our brand color also for Lonnie. This rug was given to me on loan from one of my best friends. It was her grandparents, and I've had it in here for about 10 years, and I hope she never asks for it back. So when we bought the home, I actually moved right after we bought the house. I moved to San Francisco for 2 years. So my husband and I had a long distance engagement, and he was in the house making improvements. So I always say he notebooked me. He added central air, refinished the upstairs. This was one of the pieces he bought for me while I was gone, and he just knew I would absolutely fall in love with it. I already had this beautiful lucite chair that I had gotten at a flea market in this room. I knew it would be the office. So if you see, the chandelier actually has a lucite ball at the top, which ties into the lucite desk chair. This desk is, I would call it vintage. I think it's actually Bombay Company from the 90s, but before I was a designer, I was a waitress for years. And one of my favorite regular customers actually trash picked this and refinished the whole thing for me. So I absolutely love it. It will never leave this room. It's perfect for everything I need, and I just love that special gesture. It was so sweet and so kind, so I absolutely love this desk. Just recently, I found this kind of quirky piece, but I absolutely love the mix of colors here. I'd love to know more about this piece actually. Right now I don't know anything, but I think it's just so fun, and I love the colors. The panels on the wall, I believe I got at a vintage store, and they fell in with the chinoiserie vibe. I think they've moved around the house several times, but this is their final landing place, and I love how they play off of the wall color too. This wall color is called Peachy Beige, and it just reminds me of my brand, and it's one of my favorite colors. I absolutely love it. Follow me this way, and I will take you to the dining room. Here we are in the dining room. This was another room that completely sold us on the house. We love the bay window here. We love the tall ceilings. When we first walked into the house, this room was painted like a dark burgundy, and it was painted over wallpaper. So we had a lot of stripping and paring down to do in this room, but now it really just feels absolutely perfect. We love how many people can fit at this dining room table. We love the original features, like this china cabinet. So the blue willow is something that I just keep getting gifted. You know, when you have that one thing that you love, then your family just goes out and showers you with it. So that's really special. I love so many of these pieces. Some of these teapots and things have been from both sets of my grandmothers. They had very similar tastes. So I feel like the things that I've acquired from both of them really fit with the era of this house, and it reminds me of them. This candelabra always comes out at Christmas time, and it's just so fun and cool. This golden tray is actually one of a set of 6 that was also from my grandparents. We also have these little fun spoons and forks that a girlfriend of mine gifted me from Thailand, and these always come out at tea time. My daughter has her little realistic tea set in here as well. These 2 tall back chairs, we actually bought the chairs right after we bought the house, and originally they were like a yellow, very raggedy upholstery. So this was my Christmas present this year from my mother. She got them reupholstered for me, and I just absolutely love how they turned out. We use a local upholsterer named Louise, who's absolutely incredible, and I just love the fun mix of texture that it brings to the room. over here we have this lovely bar cart that I found in a vintage shop and just fell in love with it. We had had something similar here, but I feel like it really ties everything together with the golden accents. I love this little rail on it. And above the bar cart, we have one of my favorite portraits. So around the house, you'll see we have quite a few portraits. These are done by my great uncle. His name was Napoleon, and he was a wonderful artist. He studied at PAFA in Philadelphia, and we're lucky enough to have quite a few of his pieces that we absolutely loved. So he passed away a couple years ago, and my aunt has gifted us his pieces. So we actually used this portrait to find our wall paint color here. So typically I change the place settings seasonally, but I had this piece of block printed silk from India, and I absolutely love this print. It reminds me of like a 70s retro floral, and it has that raw silk feel, and I thought just with the brown chairs it really brought in this very cool vibe here. So I love just having draped fabrics around the house. You'll see this brass teapot is just one of my favorite pieces. It's so fun, and I felt it deserved its centerpiece moment here. So this banquette here was from my mother. She gave it to us a couple years ago. These are little elephant salt and pepper shakers that are made in India that a family friend actually gave to my mother, and I stole them from her a couple years ago. I think they're just so sweet. These sconces were from Goodwill. I bought them and I thought they were real brass and tried to polish them up, and the finish came off. So I rub and buffed them back to their bronze beauty stage now. When we host, we go anywhere between going all out and keeping it really casual. One of my favorite events that we host every year is our New Year's Eve sushi party, and we just have neighbors and our other family friends over, and the kids go wild in the living room having a dance party, and we just order a ton of sushi and spread it all out on the table, and it's so much fun. When we entertain, we typically have wine on this table, so that's why it's kind of set up with wine glasses and everything. And we have these wonderful little finds here. This is actually a piece of silk art that I bought outside of the Amber Fort in Jaipur. And this little piece I found at the Gem Palace in Jaipur. And then I believe my mother thrifted this little set and gave this to me a couple Christmases ago, but I absolutely just love how the gold details shine against this darker paint color. When I picked up that little cabinet in the office just recently, the woman that I bought it from was selling all of her great aunt's items. Her great aunt had just died, so she actually gifted me some of this artwork that's in the room, and it was just absolutely perfect. I couldn't say no, and she was so sweet and generous, so now that has its little place here also. One other fun detail in this room is actually the drapery. This is all Belgian linen. The same uncle that I mentioned who was the portrait artist, he also owned a sampler brand, so he used to print needlepoint samplers back in the 50s. And when he passed away, we found bolts and bolts of this original Belgian linen. So I've been repurposing it to the best of my ability. It's absolutely beautiful. And I had these curtains made a couple years ago. I started designing shoes back in 2009 while I was still in college. I went to school for fashion design, but I was just drawn to accessories from my first experience working with them. I loved, heel shapes and leather qualities and all the different things that you could do to design a shoe or a bag. I just instantly fell in love. So I worked in the corporate world for about 9 years before I started my own brand. And now with my brand, we manufacture everything in female-founded and family-owned factories in India. So we do a lot of hand embellishment and a lot of block print work, and we mix a lot of patterns and textures and colors, and I feel like even that informs the decor of the home too. So before I show you the rest of the house, I'd love to show you the sunroom. This is the room where my family and I spend most of our time. So here in the sunroom, we have a lot of these original windows which really just sold us on the house. This was a room that we absolutely fell in love with when we first bought the home. When we first saw it, it was carpeted, and we kept a dining table in here for quite a few years, and we only just recently redid this room. So one of the funny stories is when my husband and I were planning this little renovation, we were both definitely set that we should have a checkered floor. So we had been sending each other inspiration about the floor. Originally, we were going to tile. And when it came time for us to renovate, we had already bought the materials and everything. And underneath the carpet and the subfloor was actually the original checkered floor. So that's just one of the other stories in this house. It seems like every time we strip away what the previous owners have done and we get down to what the original owners had done, it's something similar that we already had in mind for the house. So just love that story. We really wanted to be able to kind of cozy up in here, so we have our little electric fireplace, but it just makes this room at night very vibey and very cozy, and we absolutely love it. Previously, when we had the larger table in here, my husband and I were always like gunning about who would get the chaise. So it's so nice now that my daughter, my husband, and I can all be in here relaxing, playing games, reading a book. We usually have, music on in here, and it's just such a nice, relaxing space. I do not have a green thumb. All of these plants are cared for by my husband. He is the plant daddy of the family. He can really bring anything back to life. This fig tree, one of my friends was putting in the trash because she thought it was dead. So we brought it here to rehab it, and it's been here ever since, and it is like totally thriving in this location. But the plants just love it in here. This room gets so much natural light, and my husband is amazing at taking care of all of them. So again, my vibe is just very eclectic. So we have this olive green chaise that we've actually had since we first started living together, but I've draped it with some textiles, again from India, and some beautiful Moroccan pillows and things. We love decorating with these, shearlings just for the cozy vibe. I recently just found this coffee table, and this is actually, the top comes off like a tray, which is so cool. I have yet to use it for entertaining, but I think it could be so cool to do something with that. The black squiggly mirror, as I mentioned, we try to, work in a little bit of modern touches, and that is one of them I just recently got, which I love. The house smell is always very ambery. We love, Palo Santo scents. We love the smell of incense. We have incense matches kind of everywhere throughout the house, but usually anything warming. This is a tobacco and bergamot, but I love anything with like an amber vanilla undertone. So in the sunroom, we were very fortunate that we have these radiators. These are actually radiators flanking the sides of the room. So we didn't have to insulate this room at all. However, when we were picking out the flooring, my husband and I had both wanted to do tile. And if we were going to do tile, we realized it would change the whole feeling of the room, and we would probably have to heat it under floor, which added a couple $1,000s to the cost. So we actually went with cork tile. And with the cork, it's actually thermoregulating, so we didn't have to add any underfloor heating with the cork tile. And we absolutely love the look. It's very similar to the original floors that were in this sunroom, and it looks like wood. It feels earthy, but it also feels a bit modern and cool. We absolutely love that this room is just the perfect room to snuggle up together with a book and enjoy the snow day that we were fortunate to get yesterday. It just feels so warm and inviting in here. So now I would love to take you to my second favorite room of the house, which is the kitchen. One thing I love about this kitchen is the double action door. We don't use it very often, but it's such a cool feature of the home. We just renovated this kitchen in 2021, and it had been one of the first things on our priority list, but it was one of the last things we got to. However, I'm just so thrilled about how it turned out. We were really able to get everything that we wanted out of this space. We had a large island before, but it just took up so much room. So we feel like adding the peninsula or transitioning it to a peninsula just allows us to all have a place to sit down and enjoy a meal. Everyone's always congregating in the kitchen, so it feels great to be able to have enough space for everybody. This mirror is something I've just had around forever. Originally, we had planned for a shelf here, but I just love mirrors in the home. I feel like it elongates everything and it just adds another feature. So it's really fun to have this mirror here. We always have fresh fruit in the kitchen. I love having a bowl of citrus or oranges out. The footprint of the kitchen was relatively small, but we really wanted to try to maximize the height. So we chose to have this beadboard going all the way up. It feels like what would originally be in the home. We changed the placement of the refrigerator also and did this counter depth French door refrigerator. We waited almost 20 months for this refrigerator to come in because it was post-COVID time. So we lived out of a mini fridge for over a year, and we're so thankful to have this. One thing that the home didn't originally have is a pantry. So I definitely wanted to make sure that when we redesigned this kitchen that we had a great big pantry space. We actually are able to have some of our appliances in here too because we added power in the back. So it's just the perfect place to put everything, and I absolutely love the height. We chose to do a wood finish here so it almost felt like a piece of furniture rather than just being more cabinets. So we were really fortunate that the exact color that we had in mind for this cabinet was available. So these olive cabinets came in this color from the manufacturer. And I just wanted to create, again, like almost the idea of height and the idea of just being surrounded by the built-ins. So we did choose to paint the wall the same color. My contractor thought I was crazy, but I just absolutely love the effect, and I'm so glad that we did it. So over here, we added this shelf with, again, another mirror just to give it height. We loved having these sconces in the original design, and on this shelf, we have some of my favorite pieces from a ceramicist local to Philadelphia. Her name is Peyton, and she has Cloud9 clay. So the stool was my mother's. These beautiful trays with, again, the oranges. I actually thrifted them in Florida. We were decorating a house down there, but I knew that they just belonged in this kitchen, so I brought them home. Originally, there was a big old radiator here, and when we did the renovation, I found these radiators that are made in Europe that I absolutely love. So still keeps this room very toasty, but it's more of a streamline effect. And we had always wanted a place to just plop things down. So my handbag is always in this basket, and then our keys and sunglasses usually get thrown on the table. So these leather stools, we had been looking for something for this space for a long time, and we actually did originally have these beautiful solid wood swivel stools. And one day my daughter and I were sitting on one, she was on my lap, and we heard a big crack and we both hit the floor. So those had to be replaced, and we found these beautiful, these are actually Target, And I just love the mix of texture that they bring to this room. Again, the warmth coming in from the wood and the leather texture, and they're just great. They wipe clean easily. They're not too precious, and we love them. Definitely my style is eclectic. So I kind of love everything. I do love modern design, but we've infused it just in very small ways into this house so that it feels right. And the feeling that I want someone to have when they walk into this house is almost how you feel when you walk into your grandparents or like a very well-traveled older couple where they have little treasures from their travels and little things that they were, picked up or gifted. I love that eclectic feel. My husband and I love to travel, and I travel to India often for work. So I'm always picking up little pieces and splashes of color and interest to add to the home. So from here, I would love to show you the bedrooms. We have a few on the second floor, but we also have a guest suite in the downstairs, and I'd love to show you that next. This is the guest room. We love that it's on the first floor because our bedrooms are upstairs, so it's really nice for the guests to feel like they have their own space. We have a bed in here that was originally my great-great-grandfather's, and we're so lucky to have it. We haven't had to refinish it at all, but it's just such an amazing piece with this curved footbed and the ornate headboard, and it's just the perfect piece for this room. We also have another portrait that was done by my uncle. We have a big debate in our family about who it is a portrait of. Nobody knows, but it's really beautiful. And again, we let this portrait kind of inform the color of the room. In this room, we chose to paint the trim and the molding the same color as the walls, just to make it very serene and just a very calm, relaxing place to be a guest. So just a little velvet bench. Typically, this room ends up being a little bit of our changing space too, because we don't have a coat closet. So typically that's where my husband's sitting to put on his work boots and my daughter's getting dressed. Also on the bed, we have a kantha quilt. These are also something I always try to pick up when we're in India. These are all made from recycled cotton saris. So they're typically either patchworked, like this one. They're typically, a mix of fabrics, and they're different on one side from the other side. They're actually made from layers and layers of cotton. So as they get worn, they actually wear away and sometimes reveal a pattern that's underneath what you see on the top. So typically when someone's staying with us for the evening, I try to have everything cleaned out. I get all of our personal items out of here so it can just be their space. I always make sure the bed is a good reflection of what season we're in. So, if it's holiday time, we'll have a little bit different color and pattern happening. Typically try to have fresh flowers or some sort of foliage in here. And I'll put towels in this basket at the foot of their bed so they feel like they have everything they need in this room. This beautiful peacock chair is something that my mother found for us. She's a big, thrifter, antiquer, everything. She gifted this to us a couple of years ago, and it has floated around the house quite a bit. For a while it was in the sunroom, but I think this spot just makes it perfect. So the guests have a couple different options of where to sit and make themselves comfortable in this room. So let's head upstairs and I will show you the primary bedroom and my daughter's room. So this is Vivi's room, my daughter. And this room is just so joy-inducing. We all love spending time in here. We've made it really special for her. One of my best friends is a print designer. She actually made this wallpaper custom for Vivi. So that's really special. She has this antique piece here that feels like the rest of the home, but also feels very girly and feminine and fun. This mirror was one of the first things I bought for her nursery when she was a baby. I just absolutely love the detail of it. She also has her beautiful own kantha quilt here. This was a gift from one of my vendors in India. So pretty. Her bed is actually, it was my bed at one point when I was younger, and I love how the color that I chose to paint it when I was younger even works with the color of the wallpaper now. So that was something really cool that we could hold on to. She has this little tent area here where she spends a lot of time reading. This beautiful pillow was made by one of my friends, Allie. She has a very cool company called FemWorld, and she actually hand tufts all these pillows, which is so amazing. We love that her bedspread is like a nod to, you know, vintage chenille. We always have birds playing in this room because it feels like it makes the wallpaper really come alive. It plays all day. It's just so comforting. It's her alarm. So when she wakes up, you know, she has like a white noise machine that she sleeps with overnight. And when she wakes up, her alarm is the birdies. We call them the birdies. But I just let them play all day because I feel like it's so comforting and nice. She's 5 and she talks about she talks about painting the walls purple and having like a unicorn room. So I think we're probably a couple years away for her to have her own full-on renovation. One of my favorite pieces in this room is this disco unicorn head that my friend Allie made, who has the company called FemWorld. She did this for her birthday, and it's just so epically amazing. When the sun comes up in the morning and we open up her shades, a certain time of the year, the light hits it perfectly and it just cascades light all over the room. It's so beautiful and so special. I really think putting your own imprint somewhere is something that makes a home come alive. I see so many houses that maybe look cookie cutter or the same, or, you know, people being afraid to explore color or texture or pattern. And I really think if you love something and you want it in your home, just don't be afraid to explore that. All right, let me show you the primary bedroom next. Come with me. So this is our room. One of the first pieces we bought for this house before we even had settlement on this home was this brass bed. And again, we were very optimistic when we bought this bed. I think we put it in storage for a couple months and it had gotten completely patinaed. So it took us about 12 hours and several power tools to get it to this shine, but we absolutely love it. And it's just so fun. So this piece really informed the overall vibe of the room. I partnered with fellow Homeworthy alum and dear friend of mine, Michelle Gage, to decorate this room. It was part of a one-room challenge quite a few years ago. And we had so much fun collaborating on this space. Something that we had fallen in love with was this wallpaper. And it has like a metallic sheen with this beautiful purpley gray. So that was one of the second pieces that we put in this room that we absolutely love. This quilt is from India. This isn't a vintage kantha. This is like a newer kantha. So this is something that's printed with new fabric, but it is also hand stitched and hand finished. These pillows I bought in India also. They're silk and they're hand block printed, and I just love the checker pattern on this one. And these have like a subtle metallic printing in there also. So they just feel really eclectic. And I'm fortunate my husband lets me decorate with so many feminine details because I really love it. The rug in here was from my grandmother. She had bought this when she was redoing her house many, many years ago. And when she moved into, an assisted living, she wanted me to have this rug. And I'm so thankful because it really pulls everything together in this room. I love that there's black, but then there's also this purple. There's the robin's egg blue, which we've tried to kind of enhance by some little details in here. This wall is one of my favorite things. It's just a little compilation of things that are really special to us. So we have our wedding picture here, and then some 3D art, some little Turkish mirrors. Isn't she cute? So when Michelle Gage and I were collaborating on this room for the one room challenge, when we went to take the photos, she had her own little blue bench and it was so cute, but she would not leave it with me. So I think my mom actually thrifted this piece and then we got it reupholstered to look like Michelle's piece because I had loved hers so much. This piece, which serves as my husband's wardrobe, was really special. This is a little secretary. My husband has his own point of view and input, but typically, even if when we start a project, we kind of bump heads a little bit about the initial idea, I think he always really trusts me to execute it. And then once it's done, he'll say, oh my gosh, you did such an amazing job. So it's not that I have complete free range, but he does trust my overall point of view, which is very helpful. Initially, my daughter's room was the primary bedroom and that room had access to this dormer, but we decided that this should be the primary bedroom because of the placement of light. It was also closer to the bathroom. So one of the first things we did was open up this doorway so that I could have more of a dressing room space. And upon doing that, we found out that whenever they did build the upstairs, this was the original intent of the house. So this room was originally part of the primary bedroom. So this coat, which I usually have hanging here just because I love the colors, this is something that we designed exclusively for Anthropology. And again, it's India block printed. It has actually a floral quilted texture. And I was wearing this around the house yesterday because I was so cold. It was 20 degrees. And I just love the color there. These cupboards are something that we added. My mother found these in a vintage store in Cape May, New Jersey, and my husband brought them up the steps all by himself, but they really look like they belong here, and they allow me to have all of my closet kind of hidden away, which is great because it can get really out of control. This dress form was my great grandmother's. She was a dressmaker, and one of my great aunts kept this around forever. She's not in the best of shape, but she's so beautiful, and I absolutely love her as a piece in this room. This nude is another one that my great uncle did. I believe this was part of one of his studio studies. I call it the Tushy because it's just so cute. The use of color and light there, and again, the checker floor, it's just so cool. It's one of my favorite pieces. So on the table, we have some vintage shoe stretchers. We have my grandmother's little sewing kit that's in this beautiful little pail here. This is all of my jewelry. And then I have this chair I actually got down the street at an estate sale, and I absolutely love the detailing here. She probably needs to be reupholstered, but I love the original fabric, so for now I'm leaving her as she is. This dresser is another item that my husband bought when I was living across the country, and he knew that I would love it, and he was totally right. So this is where I do my makeup every day. This is one of our leather train cases that we make, again, in India, and that has all of my makeup in it. So it's nice that it can just make this space really tidy. The word home means to me somewhere where you're comfortable and you really feel like you can be your authentic self.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.